Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting for November the 21st. I call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Zaremba?
Here.
Mrs. Knoll?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Roan?
Here.
Mr. Shepherd?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Invocation tonight will be by Pastor Doug Eccles from the Bethel Baptist Church. We just call him Pastor Doug. Pastor Doug, come on and tell us a little bit about your church, and welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I've been there for 13 years this month, so I guess they're going to keep me for a little while. Church is doing well. It's been there since 1841, and we're continuing to grow, continuing to see new people come, and we have services 8:30 in the morning and 11 o'clock. Both services are identical, and lots of activities for the children and activities for adults of all ages.
Super. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you also you allow Tab High School to use your ball field out in the back too. So
that's correct.
We appreciate
yes,
that.
we have a really good relationship with Tab, and they come over, use the ball field. Their girls ensembles coming over to sing for us in December. So
great.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you have given to us. Father, we know that every good and perfect gift comes from above. We thank you for the freedoms that we enjoy as citizens of this great country. We thank you for your grace, your mercy, for your love. During this month, we thank you, Father, for the veterans, for all of those who have worn the uniform to protect our rights and our freedoms that we have as Americans. We thank you for the service and for the sacrifices that each of them have made for us. As we prepare to gather with our families in a couple of days, we celebrate Thanksgiving. And we are reminded of the psalmist who said, "Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and bless his name." So we thank you for everything that you have given to us and acknowledge your presence with us. Father, we pray for this meeting that is going to be taking place tonight. We pray for godly wisdom for those who will be making decisions. We pray for courage, boldness for those who will be speaking. We pray that everything that is said and everything that is done in this place will be seasoned with grace and with truth. Father, we ask your blessing on the Board of Supervisors, for the administration of our county, for those who serve in the fire department, the police department. We pray, Father, for all the citizens of York County tonight. We ask your blessing. For it's in the name of Jesus we pray these things. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Doug, thank you very much, and all the best to the church. Okay, if I could get everyone, if you're capable, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, it says we're going to have a presentation, and all I have here is that we'll receive a presentation from Mark Bellamy, Deputy County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. Tonight, what we have for you is the employee service recognition. Typically do this a couple times a year, recognizing employees that are celebrating significant anniversaries with the county in 5-year increments. So tonight we will get all the way to 40 years, which is a little unusual, but we will make it. Our first 20-year service is Joanne Mewborn. She started back in the community relations department as an office assistant. And today what she does for us is a webmaster. She's worked on improvements and modernizations of the county website, and most recently the transition to Civic Plus, which you all were aware of. She's also been instrumental in the County's United Way fundraising. She's been a big part of that team, and we're really proud of all the work that she's done. So we thank Joanne and congratulate her on her 20 years. Our next 20-year service is Mitch Monroe. Mitch is assigned as the supervisor for the Animal Services Bureau, serving the entire county. He is responsible for oversight of all functions related to animal services, and he also serves on the operations committee for the Peninsula Regional Animal Shelter. Michael S. Brown is a senior firefighter, and Mike is assigned to Fire Station 6 in Seaford. He is a senior firefighter. He's well experienced. Not only does he do the things that you would typically expect a firefighter to do, but he's also a pump operator, a ladder operator, and a boat operator. And as you know, with the fire department, they work some odd hours, so he has a little time available. And for most of his life, he's worked on the water, which makes him very valuable to the boat team because he knows the waters around York County. So we're very proud of Mike and his service to the county. Jason Stump for the Sheriff's Department is our next 20-year service veteran here. Jason started on the uniform patrol in 2003. He's an investigator and a property custodian. Recently, in 2023, he was awarded the Crime Scene Investigator of the Year, and he scored perfect scores on his reaccreditation the last 2 years in a row. So a very valuable member of that team. Ron Dixon is our next 20-year recipient. Ron works as a construction maintenance worker in stormwater. He started with us in 2003, and he brings a ton of knowledge about stormwater construction and maintenance. And he is often asked to step up into a leadership role when we're short people, which seems to be the case a lot lately. Mike Russell is from the Sheriff's Office as well. Mike was initially employed as a uniform patrol deputy in 2003. He has also served as a crime prevention deputy, emergency response team member, a DARE deputy, and has been promoted to sergeant in the Community Services Division of the Sheriff's Office. And I knew Mike when he worked for the city of Poquoson before he came and got on the right side of that boundary line. Michelle Justiniano, she's a management analyst in community services, and she started her career back in 2003 as an administrative technician in the Juvenile Services Division. Over the last few decades, Michelle has actively participated in several committees. That would include the V Team, Continuous Service Improvement, the Go Green Initiative, you might remember that as. She was on the Tiger Team as well. She is presently engaged in networking activities and contributes to multiple outside agencies. Michelle's commitment to professional development is evident through her graduation from the Emerging Leaders Academy and the attainment of her master's certificate in local government management from Virginia Tech in 2017. Michelle regularly updates us on state budget issues, so we are appreciative of her work. Ashton Woody works as a pump station mechanic in the Department of Public Works, Division of Utilities, and his route is comprised of 21 pump stations, so he has 21 of those facilities he's responsible for. In addition to that, he also works as an on-call technician for grinder pumps. He has a lot to do. And when he's not doing that, he enjoys spending time with his family and watching football. He is a football fanatic. Catherine Larimore works in the 911 center with Mr. Hall. She has received 7 life-saving awards. That's considerable. And she enjoys spending time with her family, and some of her hobbies include hiking and going to different theme parks throughout the country. Diane Mason is a Navy veteran. She's received several accommodations to include the life-saving awards, which I just mentioned with Catherine. And in addition to that, she's had done some work giving instructions on childbirth over the phone. So some successful childbirth telephone calls there. So she likes to spend time with her granddaughters and traveling to Kentucky where her family is. Next, on to 25 years. Start with Aaron Rosen. Aaron currently is a lieutenant in the sheriff's office. He started, obviously, back in 1998 as a uniform patrol deputy. And throughout his career, he's been a crime prevention deputy, a sergeant in a uniform patrol. And as I mentioned, he currently serves in the rank of a lieutenant. Aaron serves as emergency response team member as well as several other roles in the sheriff's office. Jeff Metter is a pump station mechanic in Public Works. Jeff started with us back in 1998, originally in mosquito control, and then he transferred to utilities department. And in his role, he has 17 pump stations to maintain. And he's currently responsible for all of the county-maintained fire hydrants, water meters, and he does water service cutoffs and disconnects as well. And in Jeff's spare time, he and his family like to visit Disney World.
Spare time.
Tia Dixon is a delinquent tax collection administrator for Candace. And Ms. Dixon has held multiple positions in the treasurer's office during her tenure, and she's always willing to take on some more responsibilities. Candace tells us that her knowledge and experience in the office is invaluable, and she is truly an asset to that office. So we appreciate her 25 years of service. Dusty Williams is a firefighter at Station 7, the newest station, and he's on A shift, and prior to his current assignment, he'd been at Station 3 at Bruton. Dusty always takes pride in his knowledge of the entire county, and especially the Bruton, Skimino, and Moortown fire station response districts. He's a seasoned and reliable member of his shift who serves as a firefighter, a pump operator, aerial ladder operator, and an EMS provider. And he's always had a positive approach to anything he's given. A great asset to the fire department. 30-year employees include Captain Kerr in the sheriff's office. He was an auxiliary officer for a few months before he started with the county, so he's got a little more time than 30 years in law enforcement. And throughout his career, he's been in many divisions in the sheriff's office, some being corrections, court security, investigator, sergeant, and lieutenant in the uniformed patrol. Jeff is also an emergency response team member and a member of the bike patrol, so it's not unusual to see him at the waterfront for some special event on his bike. Kyle Hahn, another 30-year captain. Kyle also was an auxiliary officer before he was hired on full-time. His many duties throughout his 30 years include sergeant and lieutenant in a uniform patrol, emergency response team member, and uniform patrol division commander. Kyle is the founder of the Community Services Division. Ellen Medford works for information technology. That is not too long ago. She actually used to work for Public Works. But when we brought on Infor, that software, we thought it was a better fit working in IT with Mr. Wyatt. So she has transferred over to the IT department, and it's been a really good fit for her. She started working with us as a high school student, a COE student, and has worked her way all the way up to where she is right now. She implemented the county's Infor system, which is the work order system they have in Public Works, and she was a past employee of the quarter. And one of her favorite hobbies is to be out on the York River on a boat. Appreciate Ellen's efforts. She really has made a difference in Public Works. 35-year employees, we start with Carrie Crosby. Carrie's a program manager for community services. She's been an integral part of community services and the juvenile services team specifically. She started off as an office assistant back in 1988, and she's had obviously a 35-year tenure with us. Carrie's exceptional performance and capabilities have propelled her to the position of program manager for the Project Insight program, and she is deeply invested in the growth and future of youth under her care. We appreciate 35 years. That's a long time. Bonnie Dame works in Public Works. She's an operations coordinator in the Fleet Department. Bonnie started back in 1988, and she worked for Ann Smith, which many of you will remember. Today, in the Fleet Department, what Bonnie generally does is oversees the county's fuel sites and assures that they are operating as they should, and that all the monthly, quarterly, and annual maintenance is performed to prevent any fuel site downtime or any environmental issues. And for 40 years, I suspect you're probably going to recognize this person.
Just a little.
Yep. Chief Kopczynski. He started with us as a volunteer firefighter back in '74, so he actually has a little more firefighting experience than just the 40 years. During his career as a firefighter, he's been a lieutenant, captain, training officer, battalion chief, and he made fire chief back in 1988. Chief Kopczynski is responsible for the 3 fire stations that were built during 1990 and 1991. Part of the Virginia Fire Service Council, which was one of the lead organizations that was instrumental in the creation of the legislation that created the Virginia Fire Services Board. If you get a chance, ask Steve about that. It's a very interesting organization, and they have a big impact all across the state. So what he was the leader in there is really significant. He was also part of the establishment of the first federal disaster medical assistance team in Virginia, a collaborative brainstorming effort between Norfolk Fire Rescue, Virginia Office of EMS, and York County and Fire and Life Safety. And I'll share with you that Chief Kopczynski has also been president of the Virginia Fire Chiefs Association, and he is a big contributor to the fire service all across the state. We have a lot to be proud of with him as our fire chief.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have a lot to be proud of with every single person that was mentioned there. The dedication to the county, the services, the amount of their life they've spent here, the reward that they've received, and how they have made us what we are today. Even 22 years ago when I came here, one of the things that really stood out was how people, when they come to work for this county, really love working for this county, and they stay here for a long time. And that stability is it's just hard to measure the value. So let's all give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. We're proud of every one of them. Okay. Questions or discussion of the board? Okay, sentence and comment period. Okay, hang on. All right, we got tonight, I've got for citizen comments, and I assume this is all just for the open citizen comment period. We've got 20 speakers, okay, at 3 minutes pop. Okay, folks, that's going to be an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak, because then after that we've got a bunch of public hearings that we've got to deal with. So I'm going to call you 3 names at a time. Just come up here and line up. The first one will be Nick Dupre. Nick, you here? Okay, come on, go ahead. Come on up, and before you start. And then I got Roger Harris Bagger. Is that pronounced that close? Okay, well, not close. Okay, you're number 2, and then number 3 will be Mary Jo O'Brien. Okay, if y'all line up, and then when they finish, I'll call 3 more, so we can keep us moving. All right, so you're going to get, after you give us your name and your address, the green light will come on, you get your 3 minutes, okay? 30 seconds before the time runs out, you get a yellow light, and at 3 minutes, that's it, you're done, okay? So, ready? Okay, give us your name and address.
Good evening, my name is Nick Dupree, my address is 1011 Seaford Road.
You're welcome.
I'm here to address the Seaford renovation project at Seaford Elementary School. I've been dealing with it for, I guess, over a year now. Besides all the other countless things that I've been dealing with them coming in my property, destroying property, things like that, the big thing I'm here for right now is the drainage on Seaford Road. I know I've talked to Mr. Green previously about some of these issues, and unfortunately, right now they're pushing VDOT to approve it as is. Back in July, I let the school board be aware through an email that the piping that was being run didn't meet VDOT's minimal requirements. They stopped work for about 2 days, then they continued, they covered it all up and paved over it. I've been told since then we're hoping it works. There was no reason for them to do what they did the way they did it. I spoke with the VP of Heartland Construction that they've hired to do the work. I met with him. I met with Mark Tashierhart and Dr. Carroll probably a little over a month ago out at the scene right in front of my house and talked to them about it. They denied knowing about any wrong with the drainage. Since then, I've requested the Freedom of Information Act. I've requested emails and all the documentation with that. I've read over those, and they have been aware of it all summer from the beginning. Right now, reading the latest emails I've gotten, they're pushing VDOT and Glenn Brooks to approve it like it is, and they don't want to fix it. And they should have simply moved over some of the utilities so that they could have done it how it should have been done. And they're wanting to just leave it and just pave over it literally and hope it works. They need to tear it up. They need to do it right like it was originally designed and meant to be done. There's no reason to create another potential issue for anything with storms. And when Isabel came and hit, my property didn't flood. Okay? I'm not willing to let them do what they're doing now for me to have potential flooding just because they're trying to save a buck and do something wrong when they've known about it all along. So thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing back and having this addressed and fixed.
Okay, thanks, sir. Mark. Okay, you need to take note on that one, okay?
I did.
All right, thank you. Sir?
Good evening. I'm Roger Harshbarger. I live at 111 Yorkview Road.
Welcome.
Down here in Marlbank Farms. I'm here on a lighter note tonight. We represent the Back Creek Dinkers, the new pickleball court facility, which we thank you all for providing. You did a very nice job. We've enjoyed it, and we've had tremendous growth since that is going in. We've had around 200 members at the time that it was open. We're at 414 today.
No kidding.
So there's a lot of activity going, and it's growing all the time. We thank two of your board members, both Sheila and Mr. Roan, that was at the grand opening, and I've rather enjoyed seeing Mr. Roan play pickleball. But meanwhile, the tennis courts, as it's proposed to be renovated as the next part of that project, we would like to see the growth of the pickleball industry. Right now, the number one in the country is the biggest sport coming. We'd like to see, currently there's 4 tennis courts up there, highly underused. We'd like to put, in your design, we'd like to accommodate 4 more additional pickleball courts and leave 2 true tennis courts. I play both tennis and pickleball, so I know that the tennis players don't like seeing all of those lines on their tennis courts, and I'd like to accommodate that somehow with the fact that we do need some more courts. So with that being said, that's pretty much what we're after at this meeting, and we don't want to deny anything you want to give as far as that goes, but it's a great county facility, and we'd like a little bit of input on what you're going to do the rest of it.
Okay.
And that's really all we got.
All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mary?
My name is Mary Jo O'Brien. I've lived at 120 August Drive in Seaford, Virginia for 9 years and often enjoy Yorktown offerings with friends and family. I'm against the Princess Cruise Line and any other mega cruise ship coming to Yorktown. When discussing it with friends and neighbors, I know I'm in the majority. but by asking for $16 million in state funds for a tender pier at the nonprofit Waterman's Museum and already receiving half of it in the 2024 budget, you gave Princess the green light, and you put your citizens who knew nothing about it on the defensive. Princess could care less about your pilot program, and most of your citizens don't even believe it's a pilot program. Princess is full steam ahead planning and selling cruises to Yorktown over the next 2 years, and now we learn that their sister company, Holland America, announced they are coming in 2025. These companies are aggressive, and they think they can just pick up the phone and say, hey, is it okay if our sister company brings their ships in too? And then they disregard your no anyways. The ships and the visual, water, and air pollution they bring to our riverfront does not belong in our small village and won't do enough to boost our economy to make it worth it. John Paget and Princess are already bringing people to Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown through Norfolk's Half Moon Terminal and are increasing traffic there. By the way, that terminal, 17 years later, is still not profitable enough to pay the construction bonds. I've also researched the 11 excursions they are offering while in our town. Only 3 are Yorktown tours. The others are in Newport News, Hampton, Norfolk, James City County, or Williamsburg, and are longer in duration and priced at a much better value than the Yorktown tours. The Mariners Museum tour even includes lunch in Newport News. None of the Yorktown tours include lunch. These ships will quickly colonize Yorktown, and they won't care what day you tell them not to come. I see they are on the schedule for Thursdays and Fridays. I'm a boater, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that is upset that I won't be able to use the public dock to enjoy the popular Thursday night music or dinner on a Friday night. In addition, online travel agents are advertising the cruise in Yorktown erroneously. 2 examples that stand out to me. They talk about a cruise terminal being at the Naval Weapons Station, and it's easily reachable by I-64 and 17, and that Grandview Beach is a great place to go on the York River. If we let them come, it will be a disaster. They'll be here all the time, especially since other ports are starting to limit them due to over-tourism and promise monetary benefits not coming to fruition. We already have an excellent small cruise line in American Cruise Lines that wants to come more often. Let's find ways to make that more beneficial for Yorktown.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, next 3, it's going to be, we'll start with Penny Diggs. Where's Penny Diggs? Okay, and then followed by Don Willis, followed by Ron Struble. And welcome.
I'm Penny Diggs. I'm from Seaford, Virginia.
Hey, ma'am,
Can't
please
hear
speak
you.
into the mic, please. And you can move it over if you need to.
P.O. Box 114, Yorktown, Virginia 23690.
Penny, could you say your name again?
Penny Diggs. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear us this evening. I have been asked why in the world I am taking up this cause when I'm such a private person. Perhaps Edmund Burke did not actually say that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing, but he should have. I, ladies and gentlemen, will not stand idly by and do nothing while the waterways of our community are destroyed. My husband and his family before him are and were watermen. I cannot in good conscience do nothing while you allow this community to be destroyed. You have recently been dragged through social media for allegedly being caught trying to hide information from the public. The Freedom of Information Act showed that you were deliberately taking steps to hide pertinent and valuable data from the public. The citizens who trusted you to look out for their best interest. You were again dragged for forgetting that you sent a letter requesting Commonwealth support for a multi-phase facility, including a new pier to make Yorktown a cruise ship port of call. Let's put all of that in the past. You have been empowered by the people of our community to act on our behalf. We all have a vested interest in the history of Yorktown and the future of our community. We understand that your intentions were good. You made some terrible conscious errors in judgment. People make mistakes, and that's okay. We teach our children that when you make a big mistake, immediately stop what you were doing, take ownership for your actions, rectify your transgressions, never do it again, and then move on. Forgiveness. Well, you can do it. We believe in you. Take that first step and stop this travesty before you get the citizens and this county in any deeper. We are not here to belabor the point and shame you anymore for your actions. I am sure that you are embarrassed enough at the mess that we are in. Let's move past it in a positive manner with positive actions. The people have spoken and they do not want this. We do not want the pollution, the increased crime, the traffic congestion, and negative impact on our environment. You of all people here in the true heart of America should hear and heed the voices of the people. Listen carefully as they were rising in protest. The whisper has become a roar in York County.
Okay, thank you. Don Willis. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, clapping, what you're going to do is two things that happen here. You're going to delay this thing, and we'll just stay here longer. And two, you're going to try to intimidate other people that may have different points of view. Okay? We want folks to be able to come in here and speak freely and be heard. All right? I know a lot of you support different points of view here, so if you want to continue this on, we'll just make it last longer. Don, you're up. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Don Willis. I live at 228 William Barksdale, formerly of 120 Kiskiak Watch. I'm president of Sister Cities Yorktown, and I'm here tonight to report to you on our recent trip to one of our sister cities in Provender, France. On the occasion of their 200th anniversary, at the invitation of the mayor of Provender, 4 members of Sister Cities Yorktown were able to travel to Provender on September 1 through 3, and in addition to myself and my wife, Royce Hart, retired principal at Grafton High School, and his wife, Darlene, were able to accompany us to that celebration. While we were there on the tall ship Belim, I presented Mayor Marty with a York County flag, a collage of pictures of locations in York County dedicated to the French assistance in the Revolutionary War, including the cross in the Park Service property, that was dedicated to the French killed in the Revolutionary War, the monument across from the American Revolution Museum, the statues on Riverwalk with Comte de Grasse, Rochambeau, Marquis de Lafayette, and General George Washington. Also in the picture was a shot of our own Yorktown monument, which is very similar to a monument they have in Provender, France. We included Grace Church in that, and the reason we included Grace Church was the last time the French delegation was here. They helped us raise a cross at Grace Church that was an Eagle Scout project of one of our York High School students, and each member of the French delegation did a couple of turns on the ratchet to help the crossbeam on that cross get raised. You know, it was great to be able to renew some old friendships and make some new friends while we were there. I do have some gifts that they sent to some folks in York County, including the Board of Supervisors. One of them is a replica of a French fire hat that they sent to give me to Chief Kopczynski. And I have a patch for the Police Municipal that I want to have passed on to Major West of the Sheriff's Department. And last but not least, I have a book on the history of Provender that I'd like to give the Board of Supervisors. And again, thanks for letting me speak. Happy Thanksgiving. And if you have any other questions, I think most of you know how to get me.
Okay, thank you, Don. Very good. Okay, next is Ron Struble. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Ron Struble, 205 Shady Bluff Point, Williamsburg, Virginia. I'm the president of the Conserve York County Foundation. Before I begin my comments, I would like to point out two things, or states two things. First is I do also want to tip my hat to the county staff and the recognition of their service. I've had many, many interactions with county staff over the last 3 to 4 years, all but a very small handful of those have been professional and engaging, and I do appreciate the professionalism demonstrated by York County staff with engaging our foundation. The second thing is I noticed Ms. Knoll was shaking her head no about the Holland America Lines comment. There is an announcement on their website that says they're bringing 2 visits to Yorktown in 2025, so if anyone has any background on that, I would appreciate if you could address that tonight. But that is on their website announced for Yorktown, 2 visits in 2025. They are announcing. I don't know if it's a cost share with Princess or what it is, but if anyone knows anything, I would appreciate any clarity tonight. I'd like to announce tonight that our foundation has gone through a deliberative process on this cruise ships. We looked at all sides of it. We were about 4 months, went through a whole series of things we considered, and we've come to a decision that we are going to oppose the cruise line concept for the Princess Cruise Line's pilot project for Yorktown, based on 3 points. I'll be very brief. The first point is we believe that downtown Yorktown Village should not be turned into a bus depot in any manner or means. It should be protected, so we are against it for that reason. The second one is we do not believe that taxpayer funds should be used to fund a private entity such as a pier in downtown Yorktown Village. The last thing I want to talk about is the environmental concerns, and these seem to be dismissed sometimes when I engage some folks in my mind, and I just want to point out something I learned on these ships. These ships, as you've heard before in previous sessions, burn bunker oil. Okay, it's a very dirty oil. The pollutants are captured in the smokestacks, which is a great thing, but then they're transferred into a liquid solvent, semi-solid liquid, and then they're dumped at sea while they're underway. If I'm wrong on that, I would appreciate maybe the staff doing some research that can maybe contradict that. But my understanding is they are allowed to dump that effluent once they're underway out of the area. And there have been some very recent accidental spillages, not with Princess, but in the Bahamas with Carnival Cruise Lines. And that concerns me with the ecological sensitivity of the river here. So for those 3 reasons, we are going to announce that we are against the cruise line plan for Yorktown. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, the next 3 will be David Crocker, Walt Latham, and then I think it's John Schumacher. He's 1717 Ballard Street. That ring a bell with anybody? Oh, there he is. Okay. All right, sir, go ahead. Mr. Crocker.
Thank you so much. My name is David Crocker. I live at 217 Goffkins Trace in Yorktown, Virginia. I've lived there for about 2.5 years. I'm a 30-year Navy veteran, so I've moved around a lot, looked at a lot of communities, helped a lot of communities grow. And I'm here in that capacity tonight to talk about what we can do to make Smith Farms Estates a much better, much improved community. Like I said, I've been there for about 2.5 years. And I want to address 3 particular topics tonight. 2 of them I think that are safety issues. We've been looking for lights on Yorktown Road outside and for 2.5 years we've been looking for lights on Yorktown Road. And the lights that we originally had planned were either discontinued or for whatever reason they can't get them. We put a substitute light in front of the Planning and Development Committee, and they turned it down. So I don't know where we're at, but that is a dark road at night. I mean, it's a really dark road. We've asked for, again, for 2.5 years, we've been looking for a pathway that was originally part of a larger package of pathways, sidewalks, and leeways that would allow children to walk from Smith Farms over to Mount Vernon Elementary School, literally a half a block walk. But we can't get that unbundled from a whole bunch of other projects. So kids are either now having to get in cars, and for those that live around there, you know how busy Yorktown Road is with Tabb High School and Tabb Middle School. We're just trying to figure out what is it, the problem that doesn't allow us to either address the problem and say, yes, you can do it, or no, because. I'm not a no because person. Tell me what the issues are, and let us help you solve the problems, and we'll help solve the problems. The third is just, it really seems fun, elementary, but for 2.5 years we've been looking for a landscaping plan. Now, I'm not a tree and flowers guy. I'm a retired 30-year Navy veteran. I'm a nuke power guy, so I can build nuclear power plants. I can't plant a tree. But what I'm asking is, why can't we get to a resolution where we can, I mean, it'll just make York County or Yorktown Road so much more, I think, attractive and appealing. And that's what we're after. We're, I think, a community that wants to become very embedded. We've got great citizens in the community, but and these are just three. I could go on, and I've got literally 39 seconds, so I'm going to stop. But what I'm asking for is some help from the county and the developer. I'm not sure where the truth is, which is always frustrating to a guy who spent his whole life solving problems. Thanks so much.
Okay, and Steve, I think that's in your bailiwick. Okay. Mr. Latham, welcome.
Hi. My name is Walt Latham, 305 Railway Road, Yorktown, Virginia, 23692. And I am the voter registrar for the county. I've met a few of you more this year than I have in previous years for some reason. Nice to see you again here tonight. I came here primarily for one reason, and I'm going to get to that toward the end. In the meanwhile, I did want to say I've turned in the abstracts of the election to the clerk for your minutes, which we're required to do every year for every election for some reason. So you have those abstracts. Your certificates of election cannot be made available, I am told, until December 7th. And I believe that's related to campaign finance. The state has to certify the General Assembly races as well as the constitutional offices we share with Pocosin. So I would be looking for those sometime in early December, also dependent on how quickly I can negotiate their printing with Office Depot, with whom the county has a contract. The more important reason I came tonight is I wanted to express my thanks to the school board and their staff, because without their staff, the teachers, and so on, principals, it would be impossible almost to have elections in York County. There have been other places in the state where I've heard of them having polling places on dog food aisles or in buildings that are not ADA accessible or no restrooms. And the voters of York County are very blessed to be able to share space with the York County School Division, which also accommodates some of our non-secure equipment. That's very much appreciated. I also appreciate the county staff and the Board of Supervisors. People mentioned to us the election process and how they've enjoyed it or whatever their concerns may be. And people have no idea, I don't think, how much other county departments have an impact on regarding elections, from budgeting to the fire department to community services to public works, IT. It is a full county effort, and without the Board of Supervisors and its staff, it would be impossible. And finally, I'm sorry he's not here tonight, but I wanted to especially say thank you to Mr. Morgan. I was sorry to see him retiring. No comment on the interim or whoever may come next. But during my time as registrar, Mr. Morgan has been pivotal. Mr. Morgan and his staff and the Board of Supervisors have been pivotal in providing the resources that we've needed to do elections, whether it's early voting, getting us the office space that we need. There's no way we could pull off what we have pulled off with early voting without having the space we have at Washington Square and the space at Victory Village. It would not have happened at Ballard Street. We would have just shut the county down. So I appreciate that. I appreciate it on behalf of the voters. And I want to especially share my appreciation for Mr. Morgan and how much of a colleague he has been for us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Walt. Appreciate the job you've done for us. Okay, John? And you can tell us your last name, too.
I'm John Schuster, 1717 Ballard Street, and I'm opposed to this princess. They want to tear down all this historical, just like they did on the Confederate statues, which is not right. And they're going to pollute the streams, the rivers, for clams and people there. I fought for this country, and I don't see why we can't have our historical left upright. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, next three is Darla Kupski, Krupski, Elizabeth Wilkins, and Bob Hobson. I think it's Hobson. Welcome.
Good evening. Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, good evening. My name is Darla Krupski. I'm at 112 Church Street, here down, right around the corner here. Thank you for this evening. I'm proud to be in a country where we can do this, and we can actually speak freely. And I'm wearing this, and I'm also a 36-year veteran. And so my discussion tonight for my short time is going to be a little bit different take on the princess than what you've heard before. Okay? You know a lot of the statistics. You know the facts. I think you know how most of us feel. There'll be more facts coming to you, and I know that I've written a lot to you, and I have more as soon as I can type a little better. But tonight, I want to make a point that I haven't seen in any communications or any writing. And so this is more speaking from the heart than a piece of paper. This city, which I've always wanted to live in, and I finally got a house, a historical, almost 100-year-old house. And the reason that I did was that this is a very sacred, holy place. It's never lost on me. This town is a historical, national landmark. And it is the soil. My house is built on the blood of warriors who fought very hard to make this a country. This town would not exist. This country would not exist. I would not have served for this country if it wasn't for the people that fought here. I think that if we take all the numbers and all the facts and all the things aside, if we can, for a moment, just in time, have a sense of reverence and thought of what we're talking about when we're talking about this cruise and all the cruise ships and everything. And I know more about cruise ships than I've ever wanted to know. I can tell you I will never go on one, okay? I know. I try to laugh. It's really hard, okay? I can't find a lot of good stuff about it. I'm very, very alarmed that there hasn't been a discussion amongst everybody. I mean, in the village and the people in the town, from all of you, about that sense. It is never lost on me. When I dig in my yard, it's actually artifacts from people and from pottery and bricks and things that went before for history. I know I'm on caution, so I just want to leave it with that my talk tonight is about that this place is a sacred, holy ground. And I hope that maybe we can think of it in those terms rather than facts and figures and money. So thank you for your time. Happy Thanksgiving, and I hope to see you again.
Thank you. Elizabeth Wilkins, welcome.
Hi, good evening. I'm Elizabeth Wilkins, 228 Church Street. Yesterday, the citizens of York County were shocked to learn that in the midst of our ongoing fight to keep Princess from beginning its assault on Yorktown next spring, yet another cruise line is busy selling tickets for a maiden call here in 2025. Once again, we were blindsided, this time by Holland America Line, announcing East Coast itineraries that include stops in Yorktown for 2025. In fact, smart shoppers can get in on a Black Friday sale for just $10.59 right now. York County appears to be shocked also, insisting that no such schedule was approved for the 2025 season. This may well be true, but a quick internet search reveals that the earliest reports of this came out in late September. It should be crystal clear by now that Carnival, which owns both Princess and Holland America, is already hard at work to make sure they will capitalize to the max on their newest port project. One ship will not do, nor will 2 or 3. Make no mistake, this is right out of the cruise industry playbook. They will keep the pressure on until they have as much presence here as the market will bear. Their local paid lobbyists are happy to work overtime. We've been sounding this alarm for months now. These companies won't take no for an answer, nor will their passengers linger here. The emphasis in every promo piece is clearly Colonial Williamsburg, with Yorktown as the charming gateway. Meanwhile, York County government and residents alike are mere pawns in this chess game. You, our representatives, have been hustled, claiming all along that there is nothing you can do and that any official pushback would amount to discrimination against a business concern. Please, York County, no more crocodile tears for Carnival Corporation. They are notorious bad actors, and it's time to stop this fiasco in its tracks. This will not be the legacy that you want. American Cruise Line's smaller ships of up to 200 passengers currently visit Yorktown and have for years. This is the right scale. Unlike Carnival ships, ACL vessels are built and flagged in the U.S., pay U.S. taxes, abide by U.S. labor laws, and require no extraordinary security measures for their visits. And they pollute far less because of their smaller scale and because they burn a cleaner grade of fuel. Let's stick with this model for responsible cruise tourism in Yorktown and improve on it rather than opening the Pandora's box that is Carnival Cruise Line. Meanwhile, have a peaceful Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Hobson.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Bob Hodson, 207 Nelson Street, Yorktown. It has been implied by this board that nothing can be done about Princess Cruises, that no motion is before you to vote on. I firmly disagree. First, you have acted to advance Princess Cruises by requesting state funding for a pier. It was stated at a board meeting that although it would be politically sticky, you could withdraw this request not accepting the funding. This is within your power. Secondly, it was also stated that based on legal counsel, you did not think you could stop Princess from using a public pier. I disagree. I contacted the Coast Guard and was informed that additional security requirements are required for these massive ships. The county is under no obligation to provide this security. By simply not providing this security, the pilot program could not happen. I talked with the city manager of Monterey, California. He told me this is exactly what they did to stop them. But I suspect the county board is fully aware that they have the authority to stop this and has chosen to downplay the detrimental effects. Population saturation and pollution have occurred in port after port until communities reach the breaking point. This has happened in Bar Harbor, Charleston, Seattle, Sitka, Juneau, Key West, Venice, Barcelona, Amsterdam, Marseille, Bergen, and more. They are all trying to ban or limit cruise ships. Why do we think it won't happen here? Are we naive or indifferent? Expansion is always the plan for the cruise industry. The recent announcement by Holland American Cruise Line shows just how aggressive they will be. To think we can control it after the fact is simply poor judgment. A board member has just recently reached out to start a conversation with us about our concerns. But while learning from the community, the effort promoting Princess should stop now. Citizens need to decide the appropriate path forward before a plan is put into action. That is how fair and open government works. The community, citizens, and businesses are doing due diligence on the cruise industry. And when we say the cruise industry, we mean the massive ocean liners, not river cruises like American. We know that Princess is not telling the whole story on their business practices and pollution. In just a few months, over 6,500 people have signed our petition, and the number is growing daily. We are just getting started. We have set up Facebook pages and web pages. We have met with the president of American Cruise Line to talk about sensible tourism. We are starting a postcard campaign. We are planning to talk with HOAs, civics groups, and other organizations like the Shellfish Growers of Virginia, and much more. Please know that we will continue to grow, and we will not go away until Princess is gone. We simply ask that you use your authority to stop Princess and stop turning a blind eye to the character-altering effects the cruise industry will have on this small historic community. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next three, John Hummel, Jack Monfrance, and it looks like Mark Carter. Is that Mark Carter? Yes. Mark Carter. Mark Carter? Okay. Welcome, sir.
My name is John Hummel. I live at 111 Will Scarlett Lane in Queens Lake. I'm here to talk about naval ships named USS Yorktown and to lament the fact that there is not one now. I'm asking the Board of Supervisors to facilitate getting a new USS Yorktown to be part of Yorktown's semi-quincentennial celebration in October 2031. There have been 5 USS Yorktowns. The first was a 16-gun sailing sloop of war commissioned in 1840, and the second a state-of-the-art steamer gunboat with a full complement of sails. The most famous is the third, commissioned in 1937, an aircraft carrier that was damaged in the 1942 World War II Battle of Coral Sea, quickly patched up at Pearl Harbor, and actually sunk in the Battle of Midway. This was a turning point in the war and the beginning of this victory was the beginning of American dominance in the Pacific. The Yorktown was badly damaged in this engagement and finally sunk by a Japanese submarine. The Navy immediately named another carrier after Yorktown, and it has survived and is now on display at Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, near Charleston. The 5th USS Yorktown was a missile ship commissioned by our own Mary Matthews from Nick's Seafood Pavilion. It's time for another USS Yorktown, and what better time than the 250th anniversary of the surrender of the Battle of Yorktown. The Navy seems to be naming ships after people rather than battles now. I don't know exactly how it works, but probably getting in touch with Virginia's congressional delegation can get it started. I'm requesting you assign one of your outstanding staffers to work on this project. Some other resources are, there is a U.S. Semi-Quincentennial Commission. You have your York County Historical Committee. We have our local legislatures. And probably the most useful one would be the Virginia American Revolution Commission. It has 5 events scheduled. One of them is a Yorktown Tea Party in 2024. Next one's the 250th anniversary of the arrival of Lafayette in March 2031. Siege of Yorktown, September 29th, 2031. Celebrate the battle, the surrender, and let's hope it will also include the commissioning of a 6th USS Yorktown. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Let me leave you.
Jacques Monfrance.
Good evening. My name is Jacques Van Montfrance. I live at 228 Church Street. My comments tonight partially address Mr. Morgan's memo to the board, among other things. Let me mention that our group has never been invited to express our concerns except via this 3-minute venue of stints before the board, which I assume was the basis for the questions that Mr. Morgan asked, that he mentioned in his memo of Mr. Paget, Princess Cruise Line CEO. In that memo, Mr. Morgan states, and I quote, Mr. Paget provided meaningful responses to most of the concerns, unquote, that were articulated. What would be more informative is to know the actual questions that were asked and which of those weren't meaningfully responded to. Did Mr. Morgan ask why so many localities in the U.S., including Bar Harbor, which his staff apparently consulted with, Key West, Charleston, Savannah, Juneau, Monterey, and many others globally are trying to get rid of these cruise ships? Did he ask about the open-loop exhaust gas cleaning systems, commonly known as scrubbers, that Princess cruise ships use to clean their exhaust emissions? These ships are powered by the lowest and least expensive grade of bunker oil that is riddled with pollutants. The open-loop scrubber system that is, in its simplest terms, will use York River water to clean or scrub the fuel combustion exhaust products, and then the wash water from that process is dumped back into the York River in an acidic, toxic slurry of heavy metals and other contaminants. Did he ask why the 120 ports around the world have banned open-loop scrubbers? The Princess and Holland American Line cruise ships that are slated to come here are between 17 and 23 years old. They're the rust buckets of the fleet and aren't likely up to modern-day environmental standards. Did he question the $125 that passengers will supposedly spend while on shore? And that value is also mentioned on the county website. It's the highest in the range of possible estimates and totally unrealistic for this area. The Preserve Yorktown group has a wealth of information to share. All you have to do is be receptive to hearing from us. But with the exception of Mr. Rohn, and I strongly commend him for that, none of you have been interested in what we have concerns about. You were all invited to our public meeting on this subject, but only Mr. Rohn showed up. So why don't you have a public meeting to hear how York County residents really feel? I urge you to do that and take their concerns to heart. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Betsy Taylor, guess it's Peter Bunning. Bunning, all right, and Louisa Wiley. Ma'am, welcome.
Mr.
Ms.
Chairman,
Taylor? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Betsy Taylor, 111 Kiskiak Watch, Yorktown.
And you speak into the mic, please. Thank you. That way
Can you
everybody
hear me now?
you. Thank you. Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for being here and for listening to us. I am sure that many weeks you just heave a deep sigh and so here we go again. But thank you for this opportunity. The pattern is the same from town to town. They come in a philanthropic mode, bearing checks for local organizations and businesses. It's happened here. Their receptions or luncheons, celebratory announcements. It's happened here. Businesses are assured of increased revenues, perhaps some improvements to the local infrastructure. They want to share the fascination of each locale with the world. It's happened here. For a year or two, perhaps it will be a wonderful thing. But the proverbial barn door has been opened. In time, the essence of each town or city is overwhelmed. It becomes homogenized and is just another crowded port town with T-shirts and cheap tchotchkes. Local merchants suffer. There's pollution, there's trash, and the essence of each locale has been lost. We've spoken with administrators, residents, and merchants in these towns. To a port, they regret it deeply. The Carnival Cruise Line portfolio includes Princess, Seabourn, Costa Cruises, Cunard, Holland America, and others. Your time together as a board is drawing short. There will be a new board very soon. Please read the studies that you have been sent and that are available on the damages wrought by the cruise industry. Please don't let it happen here. Please, as a board, don't let this be your legacy to Yorktown. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Peter Bunning.
Peter Buning, 107 Mason Court, Yorktown. And I'd like to address the Princess Cruise issue, and specifically referring to the large ocean-going cruise lines. I have 3 points. My wife was picking up some No Princess Cruise signs here in town and walking back to the car to put them in, and several tourists had asked her what they meant by the signs. And when she explained to them, they all universally said, "What an awful idea." Folks from our group were passing out flyers at the recent elections at the polling locations. So this is talking to York County residents. 60 to 80% of the people they talked with thought this was a bad idea for the county and Yorktown. And finally, I know certain Yorktown businesses think that the cruise visits will not be good for their businesses. I also hear that other businesses are afraid to tell the county what they really think for fear of retaliation I guess with licensing or permitting, I'm not sure. But why on earth would this be the case? So given those 3 points, I wonder, how can the board represent our county and not take a proactive position against these ships coming to Yorktown? Thank you.
Okay, Louise Wiley, please. Welcome.
Good evening, Chairman Shepard, supervisors. I'm Louise Wiley. I've lived on this peninsula all my life. I've lived in Yorktown, excuse me, at 113 Bryan Road for over 40 years in Edge Hill. And I love Yorktown. In Yorktown's storied history, a war was fought to win freedom from a government that sought to control us. And now you have put us in a position of having to fight once again. This time against an environmentally damaging plan and a greedy, oppressive global cruise line. I wonder how you allowed yourselves to get entangled in this web. Because you made deals under the cloak of secrecy and failed to communicate openly and honestly with us, we have become trapped in that web too. What I am calling for is an open forum, a public town meeting where you honestly and completely disclose to all county residents the details and timeline of your entanglement in Princess's Web and how potentially Holland American Cruise Lines are players too. The citizens deserve to know the development details, including associated costs. What are the benefits you think this deal will bring us? We need to hear directly from our supervisors, the whole who, what, when, where, why, and how. I am deeply, deeply disturbed that you have hidden this plan from us from its inception. I think holding an open forum can be one step you can take to rebuild the trust and confidence you have so severely damaged. Because I love Yorktown, I leave you with 2 final additional requests. 1, stop Princess. 2, stop expansion to Holland America. Thank you for giving me the time to speak with you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anger Brock. Andrew Brock, excuse me.
Yeah, Andrew. Have more props. Good evening. My name is Andrew Brock. I live at 220 Bacon Street. Last month, I appeared here to express my concern about the plastic netting that was used along the county-installed sidewalk on Zweibrücken. Chewed up and spit out by lawnmowers, bits of that netting can entangle, choke, and otherwise harm both animal and marine life. The netting can also be a tripping hazard. And so I felt gobsmacked a week or so after I was here last month to see workers putting down additional netting in the same place. I spoke with the foreman and explained what had happened before. He assured me that this time the netting would be well secured, only it really wasn't. By the next afternoon, it was coming loose in several places. It would be only a matter of time before another lawnmower chopped it up, too, and flung more bits of plastic all over that green. I called the county, and Heather Schott referred me to the Director of Public Works, Robert Krieger, who arranged for Assistant Director Scott Ashworth to meet me on Monday, November the 6th. I appreciate the help of both Ms. Schott and Mr. Krieger, and I am particularly grateful to Mr. Ashworth, who came, saw, and understood. 2 days later, he had a crew out working to address the problem, and so I especially want to thank him for his speedy response and action. Meanwhile, this is what I've picked up since then. I continue to pick up plastic bits from the first round.
Also, at that October board meeting, I suggested that York County consider hiring an environmental officer. I was imagining someone with a wide-ranging environmental vision. Such a person seems to be missing from our county staff. And I say that because when Princess Cruise Line, the idea was first presented to the county, apparently there was no one in place to evaluate the potential environmental impact such a huge cruise ships could have on our beloved York River. And apparently there is still no one in place to evaluate the potential impact that these enormous cruise ships could have on our beloved York River. If I am wrong, I'd love to be corrected. Meanwhile, a group of York County citizens has been doing research. The information they have gleaned is vast and damning. It's damning of the mega ship cruise line industry in general and damning of Princess in particular. The question is anyone at the county listening? Does anyone in the county care? If so, let's cancel the so-called proof of concept trial visits from Princess Cruise Lines in 2024 and say an emphatic no to any future requests from Princess, Holland America, or any other large ship cruise line that wants to make a profit for their officers and their shareholders at the expense of the York River. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And last person signed up is Barbara Luck.
Barbara Luck, 139 Smith Street. Regarding the pollution generated by Princess and other mega cruise ships, I'd just like to read Article 11, Section 1 from the Virginia State Constitution regarding natural resources and historical cities of the Commonwealth. To the end that the people have clean air, pure water, and the use and enjoyment for recreation of adequate public lands, waters, and other natural resources, it shall be the policy of the Commonwealth to conserve, develop, and utilize its natural resources, its public lands, and its historical sites and buildings. Furthermore, it shall be the Commonwealth's policy to protect its atmosphere, lands, and waters from pollution, impairment, or destruction for the benefit, enjoyment, and general welfare of the people of the Commonwealth. And incidentally, the word development appears in there, and I hasten to assure you it doesn't mean commercial or residential development as we commonly use the term development, but simply managing natural resources to meet human needs while mitigating impacts on the social and environmental environment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. That's the last speaker I have signed up. I'll open it up to anyone else. Seeing none, I'll close the, sir, did you raise your hand? Nope, okay. I'll close the public hearing, or excuse me, the citizen comment period. All right, 7:15, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back in and start the public hearings. Call the meeting back to order. We'll start with the public hearing. The first one is proposed resolution R23-143, the application of to approve a tourist home in an existing dwelling at 203 Bethune Drive. I do want to point out to the fellow supervisors that we put a moratorium on these special use permits for the tourist homes, but this one application was actually submitted before the moratorium was started. And then, and for the public, what will happen is what I plan to do after the when we turn over the chair and everything next year. That one of the things I want to do is take on the task of what you guys had asked us to do, was to try to figure out some standards. And I know the Planning Commission and whatnot has looked at it. So anyway, that's just a preamble to this application, and that's why we were looking at it. So. Yes, sir. Mr. Earl.
All right. Good evening. This is application UP 1014-23, David and Angela Bargloff. It is for a tourist home at 203 Bethune Drive, which is shown here in the blue. The property is zoned R13. high-density single-family residential and has the same zoning surrounding it on 3 sides, and then planned development there off of Pewter Place, which is within the Williamsburg Bluffs neighborhood. The subject property shown here in yellow is located in Carver Gardens. It is surrounded by single-family homes on all sides. And this is the home itself. They're proposing to do a 2-bedroom tourist home in an existing single-family dwelling. And I'm sorry, coming off a cold, so I'll try to be a little louder. The subject dwelling is 1,040 square feet in size and includes 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a living room, kitchen, dining room, and a laundry room. There's also a front porch and back deck. The applicants do not propose to make any exterior changes to the home. The parking spaces required is 3 for this application, 1 for each sleeping room. Based on the standard parking space dimensions of 18 by 9 feet, and measuring the driveway, which is about 80 feet in length and about 11 feet in width, the driveway can accommodate about 4 cars, so that does meet the 3-car requirement. Currently, there are no approved short-term rentals in Carver Gardens. The nearest approved tourist home is in Williamsburg's Bluffs, shown there in the green. Excuse me, which is in the adjacent neighborhood, a driving distance about at 1 mile, 1.2 miles from the subject property, and you'd have to go out to Merrimack Trail to get around to it, as there's no access between the 2 residential communities. The applicant has received support letters from 4 homes within adjacent areas, shown there in the blue, and those were in your packet, along with 2 emails in opposition, the one in the red. The yellow is the applicant's property, so the red was the one in opposition. The other opposition letter was someone else from within Carver Gardens, but not adjacent. Proposed conditions that cover this application: the applicant wishes to make a whole 2-bedroom house available for up to 4 adults or 6 persons when it includes children. Proposed length of stay ranges from 2 nights to 14. There are conditions in there for if the property does transfer, that the transfer ownership, the special use permit goes away. There's prohibitions on signage and requirements for the presence of a primary responsible party, which in this case is the applicant's parent. As to that, the standards for short-term rentals require that the owner, operator, proprietor either reside in the home or in an adjacent premises or designate a responsible party who can promptly respond to and resolve problems or complaints that arise while rentals are going on. The applicant has stated they currently alternate their residency between this property and one that they have in Charles City County. At that time, when they're in Charles City County, is when they would allow the tourist home use to happen as a whole house rental. And they have designated one of their parents who lives approximately 5.8 miles away, or about 12 minutes driving distance from the subject property. The applicant has also stated that they have people adjacent at 200 and 205 Bethune that will monitor the property. And this map shows that distance from the house to there. I apologize. I should have described that a little bit better. The proposed tourist home is limited in use and would only be used when the applicants are in their home in Charles City County. The applicants have lived in the home for 16 years and plan to continue their residency in the home. Additionally, the applicants have submitted support letters from some of their neighbors. The use itself may not have a significant impact on the surrounding neighborhood. However, the arrangement for the responsible party when the owners are not present causes some concern for the distance and time needed to respond to events. Therefore, we as staff are not recommending approval of this application. If the board would like to approve the application, we have given you Resolution R23-143, which does have the conditions that I previously discussed. The Planning Commission did review this application at its July meeting, and they did recommend approval 4-3. The applicants are here. The Bargeloffs are here if you would like to for them to speak, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, let's start with Mr. Green. You have any questions?
You were saying that what was the closest tourist home that's on there?
So it's in Williamsburg Bluffs. So the yellow is the applicant's property. The closest one is here off of Haymaker Place.
Okay.
So they're fairly close as the bird flies, or crow flies. But to actually driving distance, you have to go back out on Merrimack Trail to get to it.
Gotcha. I was thinking there was one at the corner of Merrimack Trail and the Carver Gardens that we had approved one time.
No, there was one that had applied earlier in Carver Gardens, but it withdrew after the Planning Commission because it had unanimously denied by the Planning Commission.
And you had said that the immediate neighbor was in opposition to this.
Correct. The one. Let me see. Let me get to the right slide for you. Yes, the one in red is the immediate neighbor that sent you an email and her opposition to it.
And are they here tonight, to your knowledge?
I do not know.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ms. Knoll.
Do we have any letter from the opposition?
Yes, there was opposition letters in your packet. There were two, one from, I think, Ms. Dow and one from Mr. Johns.
Okay.
Ms. Dow is the one that's adjacent in red, at 109 Luther Place.
Okay. Is that it, Ms. Smith? No?
That's it.
Okay. Walt?
I want to find it.
Yeah, if the applicant is here, I'd like to hear him or her discuss share with us the discussion with the house next door in red.
Okay. They are here.
Not now. We'll call on them in a minute.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, just be prepared.
Okay.
Okay. Steve.
So I think you covered it and addressed in the packet. Just to clarify, there haven't been any changes. So the intention is that the property owners will not reside on prem or within the neighborhood while it's being rented, and also furthermore, the responsible party is also not in the neighborhood either. They're going to be off prem. Correct?
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
This is from staff and to the supervisor, okay, kind of situation. I look at the recommendation here. I see a tight approval. As 7 board members or 7 planning commission members were present, which has been unusual. But there was a 4-3 vote, okay. And then I look at the recommendation from the county administrator, and it says, given the absence of signage, the small size of the home, the limited number of renters that would be allowed at any one time, and the proximity of the responsible party, I do not believe the proposed tourist home is likely to have a significant impact on the surrounding neighborhood. Then I drop down in the same part, and it says, although I do not believe this would represent a significant impact, which has already been stated, I recommend denial based on the responsible party residing several miles from the property. So the one thing I take away from this recommendation from an administrator is that the proximity issue of a responsible party is the issue.
Correct.
Okay, now, if I look at previous, and I remember that one where we had to bring it back up from Walt's district, where the person had the home up in District 1, but was residing in Grafton, which was many, many miles away. They had a person, though, that came in and said that, yes, I will watch the home, I'll be responsible for taking care of it. But that was like a neighbor.
Correct.
Okay. So was that the main issue for approval? I mean, it got denied and then turned around later, we approved it after a further review. But is that the real crux of what is happening here?
Correct. Our recommendation of staff is because of the distance, almost 12-minute time to get there, we don't feel that the use should be approved. I mean, it would be approved otherwise if there was a neighbor that was right next door that said that they would do it. More than likely, we would recommend approval. However, because the distance is so great, we feel like there's a big time lapse there if something was going on.
So the distance is for the applicant to get to it, or have a representative get to it?
It's for them to have a representative to get to it. So the applicant is going to be in Charles City County, and their parents who live 12 minutes away will be the primary responding party. And we felt that was too far away.
All right. Okay. And then we had one where it was turned down, where there was a short-term rental. I can't remember the little area that has the canals. There was one of the
one in
owners.
Seaford?
Might have been in Seaford. It's the one that
It's
had
across
the
from the marina?
No, it wasn't near the marina.
The
This
guy,
is-
the guy wasn't, the
the
guy
guy
wasn't
had
gonna be
built
there.
it. He built it, but
Mr. Harbin.
Yeah, and that's right. But his point was there wasn't going to
wasn't
be
gonna
a
be
time
around.
he could be around. And it was turned down then, right?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand. So, because we have no clear standard right now to go by, other than it just Kentucky windage. Okay, so anything else? All right, then I would like the applicant please come forward and address these issues.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to hear me. My name is Angela Bargloff, and my husband and I are the ones that reside at 203 Bethune Drive. I prepared a statement, but I'll jump around to answer the most pressing questions. I received notification last night that they were not going to recommend approval because of the responsible party. When we're not there, because we're still going to be using our house regularly, we're only 30 minutes away at our farm in Charles City. Originally, I was informed you need someone closer as a responsible party, so my father and mother, who live 12 minutes away, agreed to do so. And we moved forward with the Planning Commission, and they approved it. So last night, when I read that this would be the cause for not recommending, I went to speak with my neighbor, Gloria Palmer, who lives at 205 Bethune Drive, and I have a letter here that she signed for me today that said that she would gladly keep an eye on our property. She has all of our contact information, and she would gladly serve as essentially a liaison or a person on premise if there is an emergency, and be there until either my father or ourselves could make it to the property in the event of an emergency.
How far away is this person?
She's right next door. So on the image that they brought up, the house that's objecting is here, we're here. She's right on the other side of us. Okay. So I do have that letter, and you haven't received it yet because it was just developing this morning when I learned last night. Is that a signed letter? Yep, it's signed right here. Okay. So I guess the next pressing matter was the opposition from two neighbors. One lives on the other side of the property, but the more pressing one would be right next door, Mrs. Dow. We've lived in the house for about 17 years, and we have never met her or ever even seen her on property. I understand she lives out of state and has rented that property to numerous tenants the whole time we've resided there. So I don't even know where she lives and how to get in touch with her. So there wasn't a dialogue that could happen because she has never been in our presence the whole time we've lived there. So I would just like you to take that into consideration. And then one of her objections, because you all did send me the email, she stated that is opposed to a commercial property and that her residents should not have to have a steady stream of short-term renters in their residential neighborhood. And I completely understand the concerns over commercial properties taking up our affordable housing income or availability. But we are a unique situation in that we require still regular use of our Williamsburg property, and we will be there weekly. We're just looking to rent it out on the occasions that arise a couple times a month to help generate more revenue income for us because my husband is a disabled veteran and we live off of his retirement income. But so I would argue that our house doesn't fall under that categorization of our house becoming a commercial short-term rental property. And then she also expressed concern about noise and traffic, making the area less peaceful and quiet. And then per the county administrator's memorandum, item 7 under considerations and conclusions, stated that the proposed tourist home would not have any traffic impact on Bethune Drive beyond that of a typical single-family detached dwelling. So I did really look into her concerns, even though I've never met her or spoken with her. And I feel those concerns don't apply in our unique situation. So I'm sorry, I've bounced around with what I wanted to say now, but I want to make sure that I answer all of your questions. Were there any other questions
Okay,
I
well,
could clarify
okay,
for you?
You've answered some of them.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Said that you had a responsible party who lived across the street.
Next door.
What is next door? What's her name?
Gloria Palmer.
How old is she?
She's in her 70s. She's getting ready to retire, young 70s. Or she is retired recently.
Mobility issues?
No. She is very physically active and in good shape. So, yeah.
Be careful.
Sorry, Tom.
No, I admire her because she's very youthful.
Thank you.
Okay, Sheila.
You have not met this woman who opposed. Is her property a rental property?
It is.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for
Yeah,
answering
and
that
also I spoke to across diagonal from us across the street, one of the people who have written a letter of support, Dorlyn. She rents it out, and I made sure to contact her, and because I know her. She's been around. We've been able to see her, and she had some concerns, and we had a dialogue, and after our dialogue, she was willing to write the recommendation, so, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Zaremba.
Oh, I think my concerns were answered very well by you, so thank you.
Thank you.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. So, this is my...
That part of the applicant, go ahead.
Doug Compton, 1101 Queens Crossing. I guess I'm just a little puzzled by the concern of a 12-minute response time. What would be so detrimental to having a 12-minute response time that it's a concern? I just don't understand that.
We're not at a point right now to be able to answer your question. I can say it's like it's Kentucky windage. That's just might be a little bit too far.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but hopefully we'll be able to address that in the near future.
But now I'm hoping that since I was made aware of the situation and was able to talk to Gloria, our direct neighbor, that she's willing to fill in until one of us can get there. I hope that if you could take that into consideration, we'd greatly appreciate it.
So, County Administrator, all right, so based upon what you just heard, does that change your recommendation?
Well, first of all, this is Mr. Morgan's recommendation.
No, yeah, not getting off the hook here. You're sitting in the chair.
I can't get off that easy?
No, sorry. So would you think that changes the recommendation of this?
No, sir. I'm fairly confident it would not.
It would not?
It would not.
Okay.
May I ask why?
No,
we can't do that.
Cannot.
Okay.
Okay, we're at this point, you're done.
Okay.
We're just now talking here real quick, okay? So gosh, we don't have any standards here. So what I'm looking at is so the old trust but verify kind of thing, where you have a resolution that we're going to address, and we're going to ask the public to come up and talk, but it's where we include, for example, that the person that's going to be supporting this, which is basically supporting it next door neighbor, somehow continues to be in that position. Without her being there, then it's a whole different resolution. So you know what I'm saying? In other words, I'm just trying to codify the fact that that person's going to be still involved, or somebody within a couple houses. You guys understand what I'm saying?
No.
All right, so all our resolutions on this for short-term rentals have been based on somebody being either on the property or very close. Okay, all of them. So what happens if this neighbor doesn't exist anymore after a while, decides to sell her house and move on? So we go back to the 12 minutes. So it goes to the old question, then what was wrong with 12 minutes? So I'm asking the question. You guys got to solve this issue here.
Shall I sit or stand? Okay.
So I would say that in your resolution, under number 5, the tourist home shall be supervised and managed by a person who shall reside and be present at the address of 1101 Queens Crossing, which is her dad. If you wanted to change that to the adjacent property owner, if that whatever the address is, we could get that. We could modify the resolution and make this an R, and that would tie it directly to that person.
Okay. So you guys understand what we just said? Can you live with that? Otherwise, what happens is if it's not there, then the resolution that your special use permit is null and void. Right, lawyer?
It can be voided.
Yes. Okay. So I want you can come back up. Now you can talk. I'm just trying to fix I'm trying to fix this issue, so it's because we haven't fixed them on yet. So what we're saying is your neighbor has to be you have to have a point of contact within 3 or 4 houses, whatever the distance is at this, and we're going to say it's going to be this address. Okay, if that neighbor then changes their mind later or goes away, sells their house, goes away, then your short-term your sub becomes void.
So say she does move away, goes away, another neighbor, if I were able to get them to make the same
then you'd
agreement,
be all right.
then it would still be valid, the special use permit.
Yes.
So, yeah, I would be fine with that. I would want to address it with Gloria and make sure that she's good,
Well, we're going to
too.
put that
Yeah.
restriction on here.
Yeah,
So I'm
okay.
just saying it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somehow you got to word it so it can be a distance.
Because I would want to inform her that they're now putting her name on that binding document.
Well, she
before.
signed the letter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, she signed the letter, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So,
All right, good. Let me open up to public hearing then,
Okay.
okay? Thank you. All right, I'm opening the public hearing. Do we have anybody signed up to address this? Which one is this, number 2? I'm lost count.
Mr. Howell back
Mr.
there.
Howell.
Colonel Howell.
Richard Howell.
Horseshoe Drive.
Where is that in relationship to?
Hi, my name is Richard Howell. I live at 104 Horseshoe Drive, Williamsburg, Virginia. First I was surprised to see this back on the docket again, but appreciate the explanation, sir. We've gone down this road over distance to the property on a number of these hearings. We've seen Mr. Morgan come online and say, in one example, back in the Seaford area, that it was too far away. And it was basically eventually withdrawn because the Planning Commission said no. This one comes up. We had another one that you referenced a little bit ago, where the responsible party, the owner, was going to live right down the street, but wouldn't be able to commit to being there all the time. Here we have a case where we have the responsible party several miles away, distance issue. Now we're saying, okay, well, it's going to be the neighbor. The question you asked, Mr. Shepard, the last time was, will that person commit to being there the entire time, every rental? And without that commitment, you were loath to make that approval. My comment here is I haven't heard that commitment. And I would suggest that this get tabled or put aside until you have that commitment. Unless you can't get that commitment, they'd be denied. I oppose it as it stands.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to speak to this? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. It's a good point, and to address this issue is the fact that that person is required to be within the proximity right now. So that's all hinges on approval of this. Okay? Okay, is there any discussion from the board?
Mr. Shepard, Chairman Shepard, I'd make a motion to table it until the said responsible party can come on record and say that they are actually going to be the responsible party for the rental.
Okay.
If not, I'm going to vote to oppose, to deny the application.
Okay, all right, so wait a minute, hang on, Sheila, hang on, it's not a discussion point right yet. Okay, so a motion to table has been made. Now, is there any discussion on the motion?
Well, I would like to say that they have a letter from the person who is going to be responsible. So, that locks it in. And if that person cannot do it, then they lose the special use permit. But until that happens, they're eligible for the special use permit. And so that's the way I feel about it. So I don't know why we would table it just because you want that person in person and you don't always get that.
Any questions, comments, or this
We're
discussion?
regarding the table on it, I don't see where things are going to change between now and the time it get brought back up, so
Okay.
I think we need to just move forward with it, and that's what we have on the docket right now.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Any other
You
discussion?
might want to consider approving it conditional on getting the appropriate response from that neighbor.
Okay. So, and my point is captures, I think, and captures actually everything. Everybody's talking about by the simple fact that we've created a resolution, a special use permit that requires that person to be present or another person within a proximity, or this special use permit doesn't exist. In other words, if that doesn't exist, then the special use permit goes away. So tabling is, I don't think it's going to do anything additional to that. So I'm going to ask you to, if you want to continue to vote or withdraw.
I'll withdraw my motion to table.
Okay, it's withdrawn. So no other further discussion. So we're going to move the resolution.
So to get back, kind of address your question about trying to solve the problem. For me, it's not about keeping an eye on the property. It's about ownership. Nobody is going to be more tied into the ownership than the property owners and be responsive to issues that are happening. It's not about keeping an eye on the property in case there's a fire or something like that. It's about being able to respond to the neighbors' issues if there are problems with the property and the renters. And nobody's going to do that better and have better ownership of that than the property owners themselves. Right. That's why I've been pretty consistent from the get-go about the property owners need to be on-prem or in the neighborhood while it's being rented so they can be responsive to their neighbors should there be issues. It's not just about keeping an eye on the property. So that's hopefully kind of addresses what you were asking earlier. So.
Well, that's why our representative. Okay.
But remember, we did approve we have approved them, the neighbor watching the property. And until we change the rules, that's an option.
The board has approved it, but I have not agreed to that in all those cases.
Okay.
So.
Well, I mean, great. In fact, this is why I want to kind of focus on this later, okay?
Yeah,
but at this point, we've got to give me the resolution.
Yes, I'll move proposed resolution R23-143.
Okay, motion's been made.
The motion made by Mrs. Knoll is to adopt proposed resolution R23-143 to approve the application as submitted. Mr. Zaremba?
I'm willing to approve it with the condition that...
You can't move it just either. We've got it already. You can't move to do anything. We're going to have the conditions in there.
Will it have the condition that the owner of the property said she'll get from the neighbor?
Yes. I mean, if
that's clear.
It's required.
If that's required, yes.
Okay, and staff understands this. Right. Okay.
Mr. Shepherd, that would make that an R if we do it as amended.
Yes.
So let me restate that if you don't mind. The motion made by Mrs. Knoll is to adopt proposed resolution R23-143R to approve the application as amended. Right. Mr. Zaremba?
Yes.
Mrs. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
No.
Mr. Roan?
No.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, so you now have your approval, okay? And then you'll know the permit. The staff will work with you on that, okay? Very good. All right, you're welcome. Okay, let's see. Item 3, consider adoption of proposed resolution R23-144, and this is to approve a special use permit for, it looks like a service established at 1900 George Washington. This is for like tinting of windows, I believe.
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay.
Yes. So this is for UP 1021-23 LA Tint, which is located here at 1900 George Washington Memorial Highway, shown in the blue. Zoning is general business, mainly on 3 sides, surrounded by general business properties. It does back up to Tab Lakes, though, so it does back up to that R20. It is in an existing shopping center, and I'll show you some pictures here in a minute. So adjacent uses to the north is vacant, across 17 multiple businesses, and then again the retail strip center, the Schroeder Center there, and then to the south custom car care there. And then it does back up to 3 homes that are within the Tab Lakes residential area. So this is the shopping center and the location where the applicant will be going into Unit D. It's about 1,200 square feet. Other businesses in the shopping center include a portable spa showroom, a restaurant, and a tobacco store. The proposed use falls under the bodywork section of the ordinance, though it's not really bodywork, like popping dents and things of that nature. It's really just applying tint to windows using soap and water. It is only the applicant. He doesn't have employees. He only does 2 to 3 cars a day, all inside the unit. And I'll show you, this is the back, so there's a garage door. So he'll pull the car in, put the car tinting on, and then pull it out. But it does require a special use permit. So that is why he's before you tonight. The property can accommodate the parking. There's plenty of parking in the front as well as in the rear of the property. Excuse me. Nearest home is about 165 feet away from the back of the center. So there could be concerns with noise, but to kind of address that, zoning ordinance requires between general business and R20 a 35-foot transitional buffer. This has an 80-foot transitional buffer. That's it's fully wooded back there, mature woods. There's also a board-on-board fence that's on the residential side that also protects the adjacent neighborhood. So any potential concerns we tried to address. We also put a condition of approval that all of his work must be performed inside with the garage door down, just in case there is any noise. But I'm not sure that there would be. Proposed conditions that all the work occurs inside. He has vehicles dropped off or being picked up. They're limited to only being there for 72 hours. That just kind of a standard with these auto-related uses. No storage of parts or supplies outside, and then there's a few things in there from the Virginia Fire Code that the Fire and Life Safety Department wanted us to consider. The uses very small, not very impactful. Most motor vehicle-related uses in general business have to come forward to you as a special use permit because you wanted to review them, impose reasonable conditions, ensure compatibility with surrounding uses, and we feel this operation does. There was no. We did send a letter to Tab Lakes HOA, and got the response that they were not concerned with this one. So we feel it is compatible, and we would recommend approval of it. You have Resolution 23-144. The Planning Commission did review this, and they recommended unanimously, 7-0, for your approval. The applicant is here, and would be happy to speak with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Where's the tinting going to take place, in the front or back?
Inside the unit.
1 minute, how do you, okay, he's going to have to answer that question. All right, you got any questions down there, Chad?
Oh, for the applicant.
Okay. Sheila, the
No,
staff?
I'll wait till the applicant.
Anything for the staff? Walt?
No question.
Okay.
Steve? So
sorry.
the 72 hours for cars being stored, is that 72 business hours or 72 calendar hours? 3 days?
Calendar hours.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
And does the special use permit limit the only activity to be window tinting, or can anything under auto body work occur if this is approved?
Let me look at the resolution. I think it specifically says tinting in there. Let me just make sure. Yes, it does say limited to vehicle window tint installation and sales. Okay. So it would be limited to that, yes.
Okay, all right. And my next question will be to the applicant. All
Okay,
right, thank you.
The applicant can come forward. And you got 10 minutes if you want to talk that long.
Not really. But I just want to let you guys know I'm an experienced tinner, over 20 years experience, and the good thing about it is I'm going to be using a special film. It's made by 3M. It's called crystalline, so it's really high performance film. So like you could have a clear film and still get really good heat rejection. So I think it's good for the people there. So
tell us how you do this tinting. If you got to take the window out of the car to do it?
No, No. So we use the window as the pattern, so we cut it out on the pattern, and then we have to actually shrink the film to form the shape of the glass. And then we, clean the window with soap and water, and then we peel the clear plastic covering off, the film, put it on the window with soap and water, and then squeegee out the soap and water, and then it sticks.
Do you do this in front of the store or the back?
The back of the store.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Chad, you got any questions?
Your work will be taking place inside
Yeah.
the building?
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't want to do window tinting outside because there's a lot of dust in there, so you want to do it inside.
And how many cars do you think you'll do a day?
Honestly, maybe 2, max 3. I'm not going to hire anybody. I've been in the business a long time, and to be honest with you, it's best if I just do the work myself. And I don't want the headache of any employees or anything like that. So.
And what does window tinting on an auto vehicle usually cost?
Okay, so this film that I'm using, on average, with the basic film, you're talking about 300. If you go to ceramic films that reject more heat, you're about 500. The film that I want to use is around 700, 750. That's what I'm planning to charge. So the market is limited, I think. So, I'm not going to be cranking out cars, so it's, I'm happy with doing like 2 cars a day, and that's it.
Do the state police regulate the tint, the darkness that
They-
you can put on the?
They do. So the law in Virginia is 50%, which is really light. So the bigger the number, lighter the film. And then the back is 35% on sedans. And then as dark as you'd like on minivans and SUVs and, trucks. So you could have limo on the back. And then, but the thing is, I think starting this year, well, actually, they passed a law saying that the policeman cannot pull a car over just for the window tint. So they have to be pulled over for something else, and then they would be, so they would get a ticket for the window tint. So, they just changed the law this year. Yeah.
Okay. Is that it? Okay, Sheila?
Nope, thank you.
Walt?
What protective clothing, if any, has to be worn?
Protective clothing?
Window tint in the car, yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, you're
What
gonna-
I
you're
would
gonna-
have to wear?
I've just responded to one of your ads for employment. I show up and you like me, I'm a husky guy, I can do physical work. I'm a little concerned about my lungs. So do I have to wear any kind of protective mask like we had to?
No.
No,
It's just, the film is just polyester.
Okay.
It's just plastic, basically. And we use soap and water.
Yeah.
That's it. No harsh chemicals.
Got you. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, it looks like, from looking at the picture of your garage door at back, you're probably going to be limited to the size of vehicles you can get in there, or do you have some limit on how big of a vehicle you want to work on? If somebody brings in a...
Well, I probably wouldn't be able to do like a Sprinter van, like really tall building cars. I would just refuse that work, but basic trucks, minivans, cars would be fine.
So you're not going to have large vehicles rolling in there to get
No.
tinted up because you just don't have the capacity to put them in the garage.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, regular street cars and pickup trucks.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you very much. And now I'll open the public hearing. Does anyone care to speak to this? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Was board, anybody on the board got excuse me, go ahead and make a resolution motion here.
I move proposed resolution R23-144.
Okay, so any discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead. Motion's been moved.
The motion made by Mrs. Knoll is to adopt proposed resolution R23-144 to approve the application as submitted. Mrs. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Roan?
Yes.
Mr. Zaremba?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, so you have your permission to start your business down there.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
you're welcome. Okay, now item 4 is the proposed resolution R23-145, York County Comprehensive Plan Update, charting the course to 2040. Mr. Cross.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You all received a very detailed staff briefing on the draft comp plan at your October 3rd work session, so I don't have much in the way of a presentation for you tonight. This is where we are in the process. Of course, you have your hearing tonight on the comp plan as required by the Code of Virginia. This will mark the 46th public meeting that we've had on this project, going back to November of 2018. And that includes 34 steering committee meetings, 4 planning commission meetings, including 2 public hearings, and of course the work session, and then tonight. I do have one change to the future land use map, the 2040 land use map, to mention tonight. We just became aware last week that the city of Williamsburg has purchased yet another 69 acres of land around the Waller Mill Reservoir. The 2 parcels outlined in blue here. One is a 50-acre parcel here at 801 Gregg Lane, and then the one up along East Rochambeau Drive at the entrance to Schenck Estates. Those are currently designated low-density residential. Since they are now owned by the city of Williamsburg for watershed protection purposes, we are recommending that that be changed, both parcels be changed to conservation. What
will be the density?
The density?
Well, we change it, so what's the density? One house per 5 acres?
Well, now you're talking zoning. Assuming that you all rezone those properties to resource conservation, density would be 5 units per acre. The city has indicated they have no interest in developing the property. They indicated that their only interest is watershed protection. But yes, if those parcels were rezoned to resource conservation, a maximum of 1 unit per 5 acres would be allowed.
And that would have to be reflected in the zoning ordinance. Okay.
Right. And that's all I have.
So you're recommending an update to the draft to change that to those 2 parcels of resource conservation. Later on, we would need to take up whether or not we wanted to rezone
Yes,
it
typically after there's a comp plan update, there will be a follow-on, sort of a comprehensive rezoning where we take a look at the whole zoning map and what needs to be changed to bring the zoning map into conformance with the updated comp plan.
Okay.
So that would happen sometime next year.
Okay, gotcha.
As far as what happens after the public hearing, that's up to you. We have provided you with a resolution in your package if you are inclined to take action tonight. If not, you can postpone action until December. Again, that's up to you all.
So there would be an R by the resolution?
No. There would be no need to change the resolution for this.
All right. Okay.
I got a question, if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
Yep. Who owns this property that Williamsburg bought?
You mean who owned it previously?
Before the purchase, yeah.
Gosh, I was looking at it.
And from who did they buy it?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. The way this came about, came to our knowledge, somebody had submitted a subdivision plan, sort of for courtesy review, on that property at 801 Gregg Lane. It's about a 50-acre property. And one of our planners sent it to the city of Williamsburg, since it is in the watershed. And the city emailed back and said, we own this property. Who submitted this plan? And so it came to light that it's not open for private development, and the city indicated they have no plans to develop it. So I emailed them back and made sure, do you mind if we change the designation to conservation? And they said yes. And they said, oh, by the way, we also acquired this other piece off East Rochambeau, and same thing, not intended for any development.
So these are a piece of property that were owned by the county? They were part
No,
of the county?
they were owned by private owners. I just don't recall who the owners were. Yeah, they were in private ownership.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. So let's see. All right, hang on. I guess we got to do a public hearing now. So, are you up here to say something?
I'm just waiting, Mr. Shepherd.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I didn't get out of control. All right, so we're going to go ahead. The board's asked all the questions of everybody, so we're going to go to the public hearing, okay? And to back up again. Okay, stay away from the mic. All right, so what we'll do is start. I've got the list here. This is item 4. The first speaker will be Gene Sider. I'm giving these in the order which I got them. So, Mike, you'll get next. Okay.
Good evening. My name's Gene Sider. I live at 214 Denise Drive, and I'm glad to be here. I'm speaking on half of the plan. Neil Morgan asked me to sit on it as one of the 5 citizens. I've lived here about 20-some years. Just to speak a little bit to why I have comments on this, I'll go into my background. I'm originally from New Jersey, which is one of my frames of reference for, well, I don't know about that. But anyway, I'm from New Jersey. I'm retired Army. I was in the Army 25 years. I went back and did my calculations. I've lived in 14 states, 3 countries, moved 16 times. And at the end of this career, my wife and I sat down and figured out where do we want to live. And if you're a retired military, you can live about anywhere. And we chose here. And we never lived here before. And we chose here for the obvious reasons that people do. First and foremost, schools. We have 3 boys. And the later 2 went to Virginia schools all the way through the college. 2, for quality of life. It's safe here, low crime. 3, for other things such as medical care and amenities. And 4th, just because it's a nice place to live. So when I got put on the committee, my very first night, some of you guys remember this, I gave my I'm from New Jersey speech. And I'm from New Jersey, but I didn't go back there. There's some nice places there, but it's expensive, crowded, and very different from here. So what I wanted to do on this committee is have the perspective of someone who's seen a lot of places. I'm no one special, but I've been around. I also have a master's in economics, and my major was economic development. So I have some type of disciplined environment looking at this. And my recommendation throughout this entire process was, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Let's have some appropriate forward motion, modernizing the county, responsible development. You have to have some of that to keep the tax base the way you want it. So it doesn't have to be 100% a bedroom community, but primarily one. It's a good place to live, good place to work. The plan is excellent. I think I went to every single meeting. And there should not be any real substantial objections to this. Every meeting was open to the public. We had members come in every time. We had meeting after meeting where we invited people to come speak, and very few did, which to me indicates they're happy. If they're unhappy, they'll all come. If they're happy, they show up. So anyway, I think you've got an excellent plan. You ought to approve it. That concludes my briefing. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, Mike King.
Can I come up now, Mr.
You now
Chairman?
can come forward.
Okay, thank you. I'm not from New Jersey. I'm from here. Lifelong Peninsula resident.
Make sure you give us your address so we know where you live.
103 Fairfield Drive here in Yorktown.
Okay, thank you.
First of all, I want to congratulate everybody for your re-election, and some of you that are new, state delegate. Congratulations, everybody. Mrs. Zaremba, in your next chapter in life, best wishes, okay? I have a note here. I wanted to congratulate Neil and thank him for all his support. I didn't know he was not going to be here tonight, and I'm sure he's not watching. However, he might at some point, and I just wanted to thank him over the years. I've known him for 25 years for his mentorship. The county, I think, got a breath of fresh air when he took over, and that's not saying anything about Mr. McReynolds. He was a good man as well. I think the county needed it. Neil, thank you for everything you've done. I appreciate it, and I'm glad you decided to come back to the public administration field in my community. And you made a hell of a contribution. And if you're watching, thank you, my friend, and good luck in your retirement. Now the reason why I'm here. On behalf of the 24 Comp Plan Committee update, I'm asking the board to approve this plan. As Tim had mentioned, we spent 34 meetings, countless hours. Mr. Green, you were there where the sausage was being made, and we made a lot of sausage. Yes, we did. And Ms. Knoll, Mr. Rowan, you helped in and assisted as well. We appreciate it. I'm proud of the fact that we went over and above to make sure that everybody was heard, their voices, their concerns. We've had extra meetings. We've had extra hearings for the Planning Commission. In fact, I recommend we have another because there were several that said we didn't have a chance to speak. So I feel confident and will sleep well tonight that we gave everybody a chance to participate in this process. And I'm happy with their comments because there's a lot of things that are in this plan that are a result of the citizens and not just the Comprehensive Plan Committee. This has been a collective effort. You don't know this, but this is my 5th comprehensive plan, 4 as a city planning professional, 1 time as a commissioner. I can tell you, I know it's a different ball game sitting on your side than it is over here. And I don't know which one's harder, but listening or participating or coming up to speak, it is challenging, and I've learned a lot in this, and I've had some good times during the Planning Commission. Everybody didn't get what they wanted. However, sometimes you get what you need, and I think the county got what we needed, and we protected all our neighborhoods, and I'm very proud of that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Board. I recommend approval of this plan, and we move the county forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ron Struble?
Good evening again.
Good evening.
Ron Struble, 205 Shady Bluff Point, speaking on behalf of the Conserve York County Foundation. I'll be brief. We don't object to this plan as it's presented right now. I want to first thank Mr. King, Mr. Cross. I was a veteran of probably about 12 to 15 of those meetings where we ground through a lot of issues. Mr. King always ensured that we were heard and had some time to speak, and we appreciate that. And a lot of our suggestions were incorporated in this plan. So thank you, Mr. King, for your leadership in that committee and the entire committee. There's 2 things I'd like to bring up, though. One is, as Mr. King mentioned, and Mr. Shepard, I believe you mentioned last time, not everything everybody wanted is in this. The one big thing that I think is missing here is a programmatic approach to conservation in York County. We've allowed it to be piecemeal. Some private entities pursuing conservation. You saw the one with City of Williamsburg here, which we applaud. But there should be some kind of vision of where do we want to set some land aside. There's small parcels throughout the county. There's a couple large parcels. And I believe that we need to look at the future and where we want to set aside land for future investment and economic development and conservation, depending on how these parcels develop out in the county. So that's my first piece. I think that it's not a difficult lift to just have the board, ask the board to consider adding a performance objective in the plan to establish some sort of conservation program within the county that oversees any efforts that the county is doing. One of the supervisor's 6 objectives, one of them is environmental stewardship. And I would just challenge you that would be a step forward in leadership and stewardship in promoting some additional conservation in the county led by our county leaders as opposed to other private entities doing it by themselves. The second piece, just very briefly, in my career I did 2 tours at our headquarters. I was a Navy program manager for a program that was well beyond the county's budget, and I managed that program. And one of the things that was constantly brought to my attention, or I had to provide to the Secretary's office at the Pentagon, was performance measures. And we have objectives in this plan, but there hasn't been a lot of talk about what we do from here with performance measures. I would ask the board to consider tasking staff at the completion of this plan to develop performance measures for each objective that's in that plan. One of our supervisors comes from the corporate world. I come from the government world, but I don't know of a plan where it's which should be put forward or at least accepted without some kind of stipulation for performance measures in that plan to address success or failure of where we've been. Because I haven't heard a lot of talk in those comp plan meetings about how did we do on the last plan. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next is Mark Carter.
First, I apologize for filling out the wrong form. Kind of a rookie at that. I haven't had to do that to stand at this
That
podium.
was a rookie move on your
And so
part.
I'm on the clock too, so that's different. I stand before you tonight. I'm Mark Carter, 1022 Marl Bank Drive. I stand before you tonight as chairman of the Economic Development Authority, and I know that you all received our letter dated November 8th, signed by all 7 members of the authority, expressing our support for the approval and adoption of the comprehensive plan. While we certainly commend the Planning Commission and the Steering Committee for all their work, and certainly the staff and all the research and writing and editing that went into that. And I know it's well written because Mr. Cross had a hand in probably writing every word in there or paragraph in there. We did focus on the economic development element and the goals and strategies that are outlined in that element for economic development in the county. And while that was important in our discussion, it was also we also felt it's important to recognize that many of the other elements of the comp plan contribute to the mission of the EDA in promoting York County as a good place to do business and for expansion and growth of existing businesses as well as attracting new businesses. The plan documents very well the exceptional school system, the exceptional public facilities, pickleball courts, walking trails, sidewalks, all those kinds of things that make a community important and peaceful and attractive for its residents and potential employees of businesses and industries. The public safety system, the emergency response system, all those things contribute to a complete community and are the kinds of things that businesses and industries look at when deciding whether to expand an existing business in the county, to invest in expansion, or they're also the kinds of things that prospective businesses looking at York County as a potential location consider because they want to make sure that the county is an attractive and accommodating place for potential employees and has a good workforce. And we certainly do because of our influence by the school system and all the things that they do to promote a good workforce in the county. So we think all those things are very important and that the plan does an excellent job of outlining and documenting all of those factors. In short, the Economic Development Authority recommends the approval of the plan, and we strongly support its adoption. And we appreciate your attention to the plan. And thank you.
Thank you. I can't help but say this. I'm sitting there looking at Mark Carter, Mike King, and Tim Cross, and I'm just seeing the old planning department here. Anyway, thanks. Steve Mead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Stephen Mead, 301 Waterfowl Drive. It's Lakes Dare. I'm here tonight, though, on behalf of the EDA as well. Mark did such a good job, though, you're going to be happy I'll finish very quickly. The main thing I wanted to point out and share with you is that as we were following these events and the progression of the committee and what was going on, the board didn't talk a lot about it until recently when it was getting ready to come before you after the Planning Commission's approval. The one thing that became very obvious to us as we talked among ourselves is that there was a consensus that you're not hearing as much from the business community as you probably need to. And so we're going to make more of an effort to reach out, and this letter, signed unanimously, is the first effort for us to try and let you hear what we're hearing from our business constituents as they talk to us, what we hear as we go to these planning various meetings and talk to these folks. And we'd still do some insight visits as well, which we hear things that we will come back and share with you. So I really just wanted to share with you that for the EDA, this was something that really mattered to us, to make sure you get to hear the voice of the business community more, and that we feel like we've probably neglected our leadership role in that respect. We're going to try and take care of that as we move forward into 2024. As Mark said, we do strongly encourage you. We think this is a good plan. Personally, I look at a lot of different plans. I looked at Hampton's just last week. This is a good plan. I'd be happy to see this adopted. I'm happy living here, and so I'll be living under it. But comparing it to some of the other plans we see, this is a good plan, and I do encourage you to adopt it as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dale Cupp.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chairman, Board of Supervisors. My property, 20 acres, is at 1403 George Washington Memorial Highway. I bought that piece of property in 1977 and developed Pine Meadow Veterinary Hospital. We built that into a 7-person hospital in a matter of 10 years. And I did 100% horses in the area, and with Kiln Creek being built, we developed a large small animal. It's difficult for me to condense 25 years of trying to develop this piece of property in 3 minutes or 10 minutes, because I've had 3 or 4 different contracts on this property, and then they have folded because of not being able to work with the county. Brad Wurtzer, as you all know, built Commonwealth Green, and he had the last contract. I had it for 3 years until the Planning Commission decided to change the zoning ordinance, which took away the mixed-use overlay. This all started with me leaving in probably 1990, 92, and I didn't realize that Mark Carter was standing right behind me. But Mark Carter and Lamont Myers, who was industrial development at the time, came to my house with a map of how the county was going to build a highway or a road through my property. It was going to divide the hospital from where my mother lived. And the last thing Cynthia and I wanted to do was to have to cross a 2 or 4 lane highway to get to my mother's house. So at that point, we decided to sell out, and I sold to 3 of my associates at that time. To find out only after 3 or 4 years, the county decided not to build the highway. We are now living in Wakefield after we had moved from York County, and so we had to look for other opportunities. Then came Commonwealth Green to the board with a proposal with Brad Wurtzer to build these apartments right square behind my piece of property. And this light just intimidates the daylights out of me because, like I said, I have 25 years of trying to work with this piece of property. Then Commonwealth Green made a proposal to build the highway if you gave them permission to put the apartments in. And you all agreed, or whoever the supervisors were at that time. That agreement then was changed a year ago. Commonwealth Green came begging to get out of the contract because they didn't have the money to build the highway, and so you let them do that, which left my piece of property landlocked. Now I'm economic opportunity, but nobody can get to me. I don't understand how you can make that decision to just shut off my 20 acres from any type of development. I'm 78 years old, and I'm still practicing veterinary medicine in Wakefield, Virginia, because my retirement didn't come through from York County being able to sell this piece of property. And so I don't know what you expect from me for economic opportunity, when there's no way for somebody to get to me. Commonwealth Green's right up behind me. That's why Brad could come right on through and build these apartments or the townhouses, whatever he had arranged to do. And now I have no opportunity at all. I don't think that I could build a Hardee's. or a coffee house because nobody can get to it. And so that's why I'm asking you to leave my piece of property, which has nothing to do with 20 miles up north in Yorktown, to try to stop development there. My piece of property is the last piece. I got 3/4 an acre in Newport News. We are on the line. There is no residential around us. Coxton Auto Parts is in front of us. There's property around us, but is no residential. And I can't get to it. The hospital has a right-of-way through Brad Brain that can be used for the hospital. But it doesn't do me any good as far as industrial development or the economic opportunity. That's not going to be able to use that lane through that piece of property.
No, Dr. Cupp, what do you want? What do you want done? I don't understand.
I just want you to leave mixed use overlay so that I have an opportunity. The only person at this point or some other development can come in from the backside, Commonwealth Green, and that area through there that's being developed.
Okay, Dr. Cupp, thank you very much.
That's what I'm asking you to do.
Okay.
Give me an opportunity.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Randy Royal.
Evening, Chairman Shepard, members of the board. My name is Randy Royal. I'm with Kimley Horn and Associates, business address 4525 Main Street, Virginia Beach, Virginia. I'm representing the Abel Archer Company regarding the 29 acres they own on Highway 17 between Dare Road and Wolf Trap Road. Commercial part of this property is known as Grafton Shopping Center. Rear portion of the property is undeveloped currently. Currently, the parcel is mostly general business with some R20 zoning at the back where it's not developed, and it has a mixed-use overlay. My understanding with the comp plan is that the mixed-use overlay will be removed, as it will be everywhere, not just this particular site, which we're fine with that. From what I understand from Mr. Cross, you can still do a mixed use. It's just they're not designating exactly where it would go. We're still open to that type of use, but there appears to be some reduction in the general business zoning proposed and eliminating the R20 at the back to limited business. So you've got general business up front on 17, limited business behind it, and then medium density R20 existing in there. What I'm here to make a statement formally tonight is that we believe that there might be a better use than limited business adjacent to the residential. Perhaps multifamily, similar to the north, which is Willow Lakes on Wolf Trap Road, 240 units. It's about 5.6 units per acre density. To the south, Grafton Station Apartments and York Crossing Townhouses, which is about 10 acres per unit, which is what the comp plan is calling for. These are also transitional areas from the commercial on 17 to the residential on the back. You've got to have a transition, there's no doubt, but we believe the better transition would be multifamily. That's what I'm here to talk with you about tonight. And the shopping center is redeveloping. You're seeing some out parcels go up out there. The existing boxes will be redeveloped also, and ultimately the plan is to develop all 29 acres there. So I thank you for your time. I just wanted to go on record with this. Otherwise, I think the comp plan is great, but that's just our recommendation for this particular piece of property. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, anybody, that's the last one I had signed up. Anybody else care to speak to the comprehensive plan? Seeing none, I close the public hearing and open up for discussion. I need, Tim, can you come, or somebody come back up to, we need to talk about this mixed use thing. Yeah. So, Tim.
Yes, sir.
What? Okay, everybody slow it down here. Okay, so the mixed use, I know it's going to be an issue, and in my experience, I say my experience is that watching mixed use in this county has been basically a failure. I mean, the concept, we understood the concept when we approved it. Put a little business into build and have basically people live above the business if they could, right? And then every time we've got that happens, somebody shows up from the developer going, "It's killing us. It's killing us. We can't sell. We can't put the buildings in, except for we got like I think one not far down the road from here that's actually worked, but the others have not panned out like we expected. And I think it's a new world order, right?
Yes, I would think it's fair to say that, with the exception of Nelson's Grant, the mixed-use development concept has not so far turned out as we had hoped.
Okay, so but in the whole thing right here, the whole comprehensive plan and the zoning, they'll maybe come afterwards. We're not eliminating mixed use.
Correct.
Right, and a person comes in with a piece of property or a business, and they want to try for mixed use, then it just becomes an application for mixed use.
That's correct. You can
Okay,
apply for
so-
PDMU zoning anywhere in the county. All the plan does is it no longer designates these 6 specific areas as being specifically appropriate for mixed-use zoning. And as Mr. King said, not everybody got what they want, but one thing that came out in our land use public hearings, there was strong concern about the mixed-use overlay designation, and there was strong concern on the part of some of the committee members as well. We've had some cases where the mixed-use overlay designation has been used to justify what are basically residential rezonings, basically adding a residential component to existing commercial development nearby, which was really not what the mixed-use zoning was intended for. So all of that fed into the decision to just recommend eliminating the overlay.
So eliminating it takes care of that problem, right? But it still provides the opportunity for the landowner to still sell the property as a mixed-use concept if they want to.
The opportunity would still be there under the proposed comp plan.
So addressing Mr. Cupp's or Dr. Cupp's issue, he still can sell it as mixed use. It's just not a designated mixed-use area, but he can still sell the property or market the property as mixed use.
Yes,
if he
could.
wants to. Okay. You got any questions? Sheila?
No, because I knew that was the.
Okay, I knew that was going to be a problem. You got any questions?
No more questions yet.
Okay, thank you. All right. So let's get a resolution here. Who's going to move it?
I'll move it.
Okay.
First of all, before I move it, I'd like to say thank you to Chairman King and Jean. Great job, invaluable input, just super. And Mr. Cross, I can't think of a better person to lead the comprehensive plan review. We can honestly say that we went through every page, read every word, every punctuation, and made the appropriate changes, and most of the time left it like it was. So with that, I will move Resolution 23-145.
Okay, so the resolution's been made. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I do want to thank the citizens, really thank the citizens that spent 2 to 4 years working on this particular project. Some number 2, some number 4, people come and go. But it's a monumental effort. It's not only required by state code, but it's also something that really helps people understand what our county is going to look like. From this, we will take the comprehensive plan, and then probably and usually we will then modify the zoning ordinance to kind of comply. And anyway, it's a tremendous amount of work. And Mike, you did a great job of the leadership in that, and so everybody was heard. And I mean, it's just you can be heard. Your idea may not come across, but at least you were heard. And I guarantee everybody had a chance to influence this. So thank you very much. And with that, your motion's been made.
The motion made by Mr. Green is to adopt proposed resolution R23-145 to adopt an updated comprehensive plan for York County. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Roan?
Yes.
Mr. Zaremba?
Yes.
Mrs. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, so we now have a new comprehensive plan. Thank you very much, folks. Great work. Okay, now we're going to move to the consent agenda. Let's see, we got one of the need to see, number 5 is purchase of a Vactor truck for Public Works. The next is the Back Creek Park Tennis Court repair. That's number 6. Number 7 is material testing, inspection, and related engineering support services. Number 8 is the Hickory Hill Pump Station rehabilitation. 9 is the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Service School Security Grant Fund. Number 10 is emergency medical services, billing and collection services. And number 11 is employee of the quarter. Does anyone care to pull any one of these?
I have a quick question about number
Okay,
7.
go ahead.
What?
That's the testing,
Yeah.
Material testing inspections.
What materials testing do we send out? Give me some examples of that. What do we?
We do soil borings. If we have some responsibility for private road inspections, occasionally those get done as well.
All right, so what like concrete structures to make sure that it's like the parking garage or things like that? Are they get involved
Right,
in?
like these, you've seen recently where we've done 2 fuel sites. The tanks have been replaced and they've laid new concrete over the top of it. They come in and take borings of the concrete, make sure it's cured, and will
Okay.
support the weight that it was intended to.
Okay, all right, thanks. Just trying to wrap my head around that.
Okay. Is that it? No one, somebody want to move the consent agenda?
I move this again.
Okay, it's been moved. Any discussion? Further discussion? None. Okay, the motion's been made.
The motion made by Mrs. Knoll is to approve the consent calendar as submitted. Mr. Roan?
Yes.
Mr. Zaremba?
Yes.
Mrs. Knoll? Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. All right, now we'll go into new business.
Tom, can we take a 5-minute break?
Yes, we can. 5-minute break.
Yep.
Okay, we're adjourned. I'm not adjourned, but in recess.
It's cold in here.
Okay, welcome back. We're now going to look at item 12 on the agenda. This is an application the Bowditch Development Partners have. And Mr. Cross, you're going to give us an explanation of everything. You're on.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
So this application is actually for an expansion of a conforming special use. We're talking here about the Kingsgate Green Shopping Center up on Waller Mill Road at its intersection with Moortown Road. It used to be the big Kmart anchored shopping center. Big Kmart pulled out, and since then, Ollie's Lock Supply Company and Ashley Home Furnishings have filled that space. It's kind of on the rebound. And the owner has submitted a plan, came to us with a plan to add a couple of additional buildings out there, about 20,000 square feet of space. The shopping center is over 80,000 square feet gross floor area. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But because we have this, what we call our big box ordinance, which says that a special use permit is required for any shopping center or retail use with 80,000 or more square feet of gross floor area. So even though this shopping center did not require a special use permit when it was built way back in 1980, any expansion of it falls under that requirement that applies to all expansions of special use permits. And the rule is that an increase under 5% can be approved administratively. An increase over 25% has to go through the entire special use permit process, but anything between 5 and 25% can be approved by the board without a public hearing and without prior planning commission review. This is the site at the corner of Moortown Road and Waller Mill Road. It's about 17 acres. And here's the aerial photo. The two stars indicate where the two new buildings would go. There is an existing undeveloped out parcel right here along Moortown Road, and then there's another undeveloped large green area here along Waller Mill Road. And so the plan is to build a 10,800 square foot building here and another 10,800 square foot building over here, roughly in the area where that undeveloped out parcel is. A couple of pictures. There's the Ollie's. This is the undeveloped out parcel on Moortown Road, and then this is that large undeveloped area next to the existing shopping center where the other building would go. Again, it's about a 15.3% expansion, so it falls under that category of minor amendment. The application is consistent with the comp plan, which designates this area general business development. Would not have any adverse impacts on nearby properties, and we recommend approval of the application. In your package, for some reason I forgot to make a slide of them, but in your package you have some building elevations that show very attractive building facades on these buildings that would be an aesthetic complement to Moortown Road, Waller Mill Road corridor. So we recommend approval, subject to the conditions in proposed resolution R23-153. I know it's not a public hearing, but if the applicant is here, if you have any questions for him, or I can take any questions you might have for me at this
Any
time.
questions of staff? Well,
Tim, earlier today, I think it was today, I got a call from a representative of the applicant. And my concern was the intersection of Moortown Road and Waller Mill Road. And it's both those roads, especially Moortown Road, are very heavily traveled. So my concern was, in my conversation to whoever I talked to, was what's the fire chief's position on that? They assured me that they talked to the fire chief and the chief would get back to me. I've not heard a thing yet from Chief Kopkinski. So can we ask, Chief, have you looked at this initiative?
So we are
familiar with the request tonight. We typically don't get involved in the determination of traffic movements and that sort of thing on the state roadways. That would be under VDOT's purview primarily, I would assume. However, we have looked at the site itself, and of course, talking to Mr. Bowditch and others with the company. Of course, the movement around the buildings and that sort of thing would have to fall under the Virginia Statewide Fire Prevention Code for fire lanes and access to the facilities. But actually, the movement on the highway and so forth, so on, would really come under, I suspect, VDOT's purview.
The reason for my question was not so much about how many vehicles a day pass through the intersection, these two roads. My concern was, our very sophisticated lumbering fire trucks, if there was an emergency, and what does that intersection, the Moortown Road, Watermill Road, present in terms of a hazard, a problem, a barrier?
I'm unaware of any impediments that we've experienced thus far at those intersections. Of course, we are fortunate in that we have what's known as traffic light preemption capability, which allows us to control the lights, the traffic signals as we approach them during an emergency call. So we can basically turn the lights to a green condition so that our vehicles can move through. It moves the other traffic through, and then our vehicles can move through as well. And I suspect if there's any changes to those signals there, they would include the traffic preemption capabilities.
Yeah, it's not just those two roads, Moortown Road and Waller Mill, but of course, 50 yards away is bypass.
Right.
And major.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
These things make so much noise and have so many lights on it, it just run people off the road.
Run over them.
You got a question?
No questions.
All right, so we don't have a public hearing here, so there's no questions on it. Have a motion, please.
If we could get the applicant.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. Let's get the applicant up here.
Mr. Bowditch.
Welcome.
Mr. Cross, thank you for your presentation. Board Chairman, my name is Gray Bowditch. I'm the president of Bowditch Development Partners. We partnered up with shopping center ownership about 3.5 years ago to evolve the center from what it was in its more quiet days to what it is today. As you may be familiar, the center was previously managed and occupied by Kmart. That Kmart moved out and left the center relatively inhabited. When we acquired a relationship with the ownership, it was, I think, roughly 40% occupied. We are now maybe 85%, and we have, which has become public, Dollar Tree moving into the end cap. So as of January 1st of this year, we'll be roughly 92 to 94% occupied in the center. The property management and ownership, both out of Alabama and New York, have asked us to develop these two parcels discussed tonight. And there are many active tenants that are working with the brokerage firm of record to potentially move in if said is approved and developed. So here for any kind of questions that might come up.
Questions?
Mr. Bowditch, last time you were in front of us, you were at the same shopping center, I believe with a different employer, and you were working for like a home improvement type HVAC plumbing.
Yes, sir.
Type. And you completed that project, and now you're back here, and you are with this other project with a new company. Or tell us a little bit about that.
So a little bit of background. Client relationship that Supervisor Green is referencing is a relationship with Lock Supply. Lock Supply is comparable to like a Ferguson Enterprise or a Morrison Supply. They supply plumbing, mechanical, and electrical components to the subcontractor market. They're based on the West Coast and found the 35 square foot space at the other end cap of the center attractive. A portion of that space was the former Kmart. We came before you and I'll speak to that in a second, about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, with the idea of repositioning that space's front entrance. That space went into the Kmart's sort of former garden center, so they were not able to do a front-facing entrance. They had to do a side-facing entrance. To my knowledge, they've been successful to this point. We, my new company, maintain a relationship with their executive team and have supported them in other realms. To speak specifically about my representation then versus today, at that time I was general manager of a construction business based in Virginia Beach, and now I am president and owner of a construction base based on the peninsula, and have been very fortunate to maintain their client relationship of this center. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Congratulations on going out on your own.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a big daring step, so very good. And it's very, looks like it's been fairly successful. You got a question?
Yeah, I just want to just touch upon the traffic equation. So if it, based upon what was in the memorandum, if I did my math correctly, it looks like we're looking at an additional 8% traffic, weekday traffic, with the addition of the buildings. But the narrative doesn't really speak to, and this maybe for Tim, I'm assuming that the roads can handle 8% without any changes to traffic control devices, where that additional 8% is a nit, or we got a...
You did a traffic study.
Yes, Mr. Rowan. Moortown Road, that section of Moortown Road is 4 lanes. It's ton of capacity out there. And the number of trips that would be generated by this expansion is not even high enough to warrant our requiring a traffic impact analysis.
Okay. All right. That's what okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, all right. Now take a motion.
I'll move R 23-153.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, it's moved.
The motion made by Mrs. Knoll is to adopt proposed resolution R23-153 to approve the application as submitted. Mr. Zaremba?
Yes.
Mrs. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Roan?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, so your application's approved, and good luck with your expansion there. You bet. Okay. All right, let's go to item 13, it's the purchase. So it looks like we're going to buy a vehicle up to $75,000 from the Virginia Sheriff's Association, or through the Virginia Association. So, Mr. Bellamy.
Mr. Shepherd, for some clarification there, this would, what this action would do would allow staff to purchase a number of vehicles, not just a single vehicle, but a number of vehicles off of this contract. Normally, the requirement in the past has been $50,000 that would have to come to the board.
Right.
Yes, sir. But with inflation, vehicles have gotten very expensive, and what you would see is a constant request, and that has not been part of your normal operation as a board. So what we're looking to do here is to adopt this contract that would allow staff to spend up to that amount of money.
Okay, is this just a one-time thing with this contract?
It'll have a term on it, like other contracts. I believe it's 4 one-year terms, 1 year with renewals on it.
So is this just to buy, what I'm talking about, in the past, we've set the $50,000 limit, and it just goes on, okay? So now we're setting $75,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's the way, it'll be handled like the $50,000, but it's $75,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Questions?
Well, I just want to make an observation. It's not just about raising the limit to minimize the number of requests that come to the board, but also to give the fleet manager flexibility to act on opportunities and deals as they come up and not lose those deals because they had to come to the board, and then we lose potential savings because we were slow to act.
So does that happen? Through our approval
right
process?
now, with supply chain issues, we are having problems. Mr. Green's here tonight, as a matter of fact. We are having problems locating vehicles. And occasionally, as Mr. Rohn describes, a dealer will show up with a couple vehicles of the type that we need, and if they're difficult to find, it's to our best interest to be able to act on it.
But it falls within our window, because I know you guys got life cycle predictions.
It does, we do.
And so it falls, so it's opportunity just that, oh, wait a minute, there's a vehicle, let's go buy it. It's got to fall within a replacement
Correct.
because it costs a lot of money.
We are talking about systematic replacements.
Right, all right.
Right.
Very good. Any other questions, comments? Okay.
It's going to save us money.
Yeah,
Yep.
Sheila, you want to move this one? Somebody want to move it?
I'll move for
Number
proposed
13.
resolution R23-142.
There you go. Any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, motion's been moved.
The motion made by Mr. Zaremba is to adopt proposed resolution R23-142 to authorize purchases for single vehicles up to $75,000 through the Virginia Sheriff's Association's cooperative contract. Mrs. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Rohn?
Yes.
Mr. Zaremba?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, so now we go to item 14, Assura Cyber Security Services, and that deals with resolution R23-156. So, Tim Wyatt, come talk to us about it.
Thanks for having me. We've used this company, Assura, for 4 years. We've had this specific service with them for 3 years, been very happy with it. At this point, it's up for renewal. The underlying contract only allows us to renew it for 1 year at this point. They do several services for us. Our internal staff is very well versed and educated in cybersecurity. However, it's mostly in-house taught or through training. What this company allows for the county is an outside vendor that focuses purely on security. They have several local governments that they support, private sector. If they see an incident in one of their clients, they're going to check all of their clients for it in real time. We take up all of our security logs, all of our notices, and we send them out to that company, and they review it with real people as well as different automation tools to see are there any misconfigurations, anything that doesn't seem right. It also gives us what is called a SOC, a Security Operations Center, and they monitor these logs 24/7, 365. So for the county to beef up our staff to be able to cover that would be substantially more than any of this. Over the past 3 years, there have been a few times where, thankfully, they've been false positives, but they've seen questionable activity through those logs, contacted us, and we did our due diligence to make sure that, a hacker did not get in, there wasn't anything malicious. It's been a very good business relationship. A lot of other localities use them. Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, most of the cybersecurity subcommittee activities for Hampton Roads, we use this company through them as well. And if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions of Tim?
Yeah, so sounds like they're not doing penetration tests and they're not managing our firewall. Sounds like they're looking at intrusion, unauthorized access, real time, as well as our firewall rules and what are so help me out exactly what are they doing for
Sure.
us?
So the penetration tests we do through separate companies. Again, we want multiple eyes on there. We don't want one company with one company's blind spots or one organization. So penetration tests we do through other things. There are soft scans that they do from the outside that you would get through commercially available tools. They also have a device that does internal vulnerability scanning. So it checks all of our servers, a lot of our high-risk PCs, voter registrar PCs, things like that, and collects up logs from those devices. And it checks to see, for instance, if Microsoft Office wasn't patched. If we had an Adobe product that was on there and vulnerable and had an exploit a hacker could take advantage of, if they could get inside of our network, it alerts them and alerts us as well. We meet with them monthly and go through all of those logs. They don't look into our configuration. They have how me and my staff have set this up is kind of best practices. They see the logs and they alert us. They have no access into our network. They have no access and credentials into our system. That way, if they were hacked, they can't come in and create another vulnerability for the network. Does that answer?
All right, so they're not doing real-time monitoring of for unauthorized access. They're just looking.
They do real-time monitoring of the logs. So the firewall, if we were to be attacked through something called denial of service, where outside servers trying to break in and they're constantly beating on our front door, our firewall, They would see those logs, they would be sent up there, and if it was something concerning or they saw something like that, they would reach out to us, either email or severity phone calls. I've gotten, over the 3 years, probably 3 phone calls. Luckily, all of them have been false positives, but
How often do we send them our logs?
it's continuous. And then they store the logs for 1 year,
So
which is required.
we're streaming our log data up to them? Okay,
Yep.
all right.
Continually.
The contract is going to be renewed for a year?
Yes, yep.
Is there an option for longer-term renewal with less, less cost per year? What?
Great question. The underlying contract that we're using unfortunately expires later this year, so we can only do 1 year. Otherwise, I would have been asking for multiple years, and then we can always decide throughout that contract not to do it. Next year, when I bring this back forward, presumably the underlying contract that we'd be writing off of the cooperative agreement would be 3 years or longer, and we would be able to give you the option for
3
multiple
years or
years.
just, or with the renewals?
With
Option-
renewals.
Options?
Option for renewals,
Okay.
most likely. Yep.
All right, thank you.
Just one quick question, Tom, if I can.
Sure.
You may have addressed it, and I wasn't paying attention.
Oh,
but
that's-
is this a competitive contract or just a contract with this one entity, no competition?
As to the best of my ability, as far as I'm aware, it's the cooperative agreement that we're utilizing. They bid it out. They looked at multiple vendors and they awarded it to Assure in this case, and so we write off of that contract.
Who's they?
I apologize. I'm not sure who the company is.
I thought it was the county. I thought they was the county.
I may butcher it just a tad, but it was through the college and universities.
I keep speaking to the
It was
mic.
through the colleges and universities. It was a
Okay.
JMU contract
JMU
that they
contract.
bid out, competitively bid out,
Yeah, okay.
and got the best quality, and that's what we're riding off of.
All right, so,
That's good enough.
okay. Any other questions?
No.
All right, very good. Thank you, Tim. All right, okay, let's have a motion there.
I'll move R23-156.
Okay, a motion has been made. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, move the motion.
The motion made by Mr. Roan is to adopt proposed resolution R23-156 to execute a contract for the purchase of cybersecurity services. Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Roan?
Yes.
Mr. Zaremba?
Yes.
Mrs. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, so let's back it up a bit here. Let's go back to close to the front of the agenda, and let's have county attorney reports and requests. Is there any request or the county attorney? I have one. All right. So over the weeks and maybe months, we've had input. People come up here and talk about the Prince Cruise Line, and we've all heard this. And I don't think it's been clearly stated to the public what they come up with variations of what they're hearing concerning limitations on the board, that the Board of Supervisors is talking about. One of the big ones is prohibiting people docking using our docks. Now, and another one I'm going to come to the county administrator on, is this pier that everybody's been talking about. Well, my understanding in that letter that Sheila and I signed was dealt with the fact that the original concept was to have a pier over on that side, okay? And they were going to build some pier and then give it to the county, right? Now, before we get to that, the question I have for you, and we need to get this out there, is the limitations on the Board of Supervisors to prohibit people, boats, ships, whatever, using our pier. Can you give us any insight there?
Well, from a legal
Boy,
standpoint,
I'm losing my hearing aids.
first of all, I would defer to the waterfront operations. We have a policy.
Are you speaking to the mic?
We have a policy. We have a policy that addresses the use of our pier. That policy can be changed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors. I am not in a position today to go into a comprehensive discussion about what limitations we do have and don't have regarding regulations over maritime commerce. However, I can say that the big issue that we've discussed is always the fact that we cannot discriminate based on constitutional principles against certain types of commerce. So, for instance, if we were, it's my opinion that if we were to say Princess Cruise Lines can't dock their tender boats at our pier, that restriction would apply, would have to apply across the board to anybody wishing to dock a similar type of vessel against
Or
the pier.
larger.
Against, yes, right. Now,
Well, let me just make this
having
clear.
said
Let's
that,
clear what you just said, because I want it to be understood by this board and by the people out here. So a big ship like Princess or somebody that comes out here, and they don't dock actually here, they go dock out in the river.
That's
away
right.
from here, and they send a tender in here. And we say that you cannot you cannot dock at our docks with a tender. Okay,
So-
now that's a smaller boat than the American Cruise
That's
line
right.
uses, right?
correct. And those are the problems. And the other issue is we don't have
Wait
any
a minute,
control.
I'm not finished. You jumped into a point. Okay, so if we say you can't bring a tender here, that means you can't bring any boats bigger than a tender,
Well,
right?
you know, it's, I can't say for certain, I don't know enough about how these ships work and everything to say what kind of limit, how you would limit it. I don't know whether it's based on the size of the ship or the boat or anything like that. But we have rules and for the use of our pier. We charge, I believe, I don't want to, I mean, my understanding is waterfront, we have a fee we charge for a tender boat, and it defines a tender boat. So you have a tender boat, you can use our pier. We could, I think we could say you can't do that at all. But that would apply to everybody. So any other ship wishing to have a tender boat would be subject to the same exact rules. We can't discriminate against particular types of commerce and particular companies based on constitutional limitations on restrictions on the regulation of commerce, U.S. Constitution. And also, we don't have any control over who puts a ship in the river. That's up to the federal government. The navigable waters, the York River, are controlled by the federal government and regulated by the Coast Guard.
So what was the discussion one gentleman brought up concerning the Coast Guard? Some limitations, or said that?
I don't know enough about that issue. I think there was a mention that there was a belief that we could not, we could say we're not going to provide port security or do something like that. And I didn't really understand what the argument that was being made, so I would need to have some more information and do some more research on that to fully understand what the point was that was being made.
The takeaway I got from that was the person was advised, said he was advised by the Coast Guard that said York County is not obligated to provide international port security just because a boat shows up asking for it. We can't be forced to provide it. I think that was my takeaway from that comment.
Again, I don't know enough about how any of that works to be able to have an opinion on any of that at this point.
Okay.
My takeaway for this thing was nothing to do with what we're talking about here. It had to do over and over and over again. This board is doing something with an ocean liner called Princess without having any public hearing to let the citizens have an opportunity to weigh in on any decision by this board. It reminds me when I was a kid, okay? All my mom had to do when my dad came home from days driving UPS trucks was to tell my father, Walt didn't do what you wanted him to do today. And we went down the hallway to the nearest bathroom, and it was a spanking time because that big black boat was coming up off his waist. The point is, the analogy may be a poor one, but you got a 5-member board here, and three of these board members were not involved in the discussions with Princess, or I wasn't for sure, and nor were the citizens. And the angst was the citizens want to be part of something like Princess or whatever relative to Yorktown. That was my takeaway, okay? And, I think we disappointed most of the people that talked about that very issue. Get us involved, get us involved. We are elected by these people out here, and we're not omnipotent with respect to our knowledge. But that's kind of my takeaway from that thing, okay?
Okay, so.
And I was tired of being spanked tonight because
No,
they were
okay,
now
well-
talking about selected people. They were talking about 5 members of the board.
Look, I have a the question.
Yeah.
The question I'm asking of the county attorney, and I think everyone, and I would ask the board members to pipe up on this. Folks come in here and they talk about the cruise liner, and they talk about pollution. They talk about, the Board of Supervisors is going to stop the ship from coming in the river, and then bring these tenders over, which carry 50 to 100 people. Okay, and they talk about the cities in Charleston and a few other cities that have trying to push back on these things. They don't want them in here. So, okay, Walt, in the military, you try to plan for some options here, right? So, if it turns out that you're going to do a mission and it doesn't work out right, you better have a back door or some way of getting out of here, right?
Amen.
So the question I'm asking for our county attorney is, because we can sit here all day long and what if, okay? But I'm asking the county attorney these questions that we need to have a defensive plan, an exit plan, if the cruise ship business turns into a big mud pile. So, I mean, so we got to know stuff, and it's legal stuff. Like, what is our authority? What can we do and what can't we do? And I'd like to know a real legal opinion. I think the board needs that for a defensive position.
Well, I'm prepared to, and I've been working on, a comprehensive memo outlining a lot of these topics, which I will present to the board as soon as possible. One of the issues is that several of these issues are under active litigation in courts across the country. There's been discussion about Bar Harbor, Maine, and Bar Harbor, Maine passed a series of restrictions, but those have been heavily litigated and are under federal lawsuit in Maine. And so the judge hasn't ruled on that yet, but it's that's one of the many cases that are pending in the country that have addressed some of these issues about how much power you have and how much ability you have to restrict these types of enterprises. So.
Okay, well, but I hear a lot of what ifs. Okay, you're going to you're going to look around, but I think the Board of Supervisors deserve to have a real good foundation. I mean, we've heard this thing about the federal government controls the navigable waters, which New York River has. Okay, we have the Coast Guard out here doing stuff, and we need to know. And then we got this big question of what the supervisors can do. I mean, if we have to have a defensive motion to go get Chad as he's up there in the General Assembly,
I'm available.
to get the General Assembly to try to give us authority over the York River. I mean, what are we doing here? Okay, and Walt, I will bring it. I'm going to make sure because I know you said you didn't know anything about this. I know the staff went down and they briefed you on this. Okay, they briefed you on this whole thing, the letter and the whole deal. All right.
I'm not talking about the staff. I'm talking about this board. Collectively, we make decisions for the citizens of the county.
Okay, so
that never took
Walt,
place.
got it. The question is,
that's what I heard tonight.
Well, yeah, but people coming to us, and the question is, what decisions do we make? The business has not come before this board for any decision.
The business.
The business. They have not come for any decision. We don't have any special use permits. We don't have nothing to operate on. So my question is,
we have dialogue. We have.
You can talk all day long, but the problem is, well, I don't want to spend my time just talking. If people want to ask me about how can you stop something, how you do something, I need to know a legal, no kidding opinion. And that's when during this period,
Yep.
I'm asking our attorney and I'm asking all the supervisors to say, yeah, let's do this. Let's find some defensive, what we can and can't do. All right? Everybody agree with that?
No, yeah.
You agree with that?
I'm always open to discussion.
We're giving. Look, the reason I'm asking Sheila is because I don't, as a chairman, give him a task. Okay, I had the board task our two employees.
Well, you can as chairman.
I can't. He operates.
Request
off the
received,
supervisor.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, so you got a task here, right?
Mr. Shepherd, I have one other thing. And
Sure, go
Ms.
ahead.
O'Brien brought it up today. And we're frequently out on the water during the summer, and we frequently come up to Yorktown. And if cruise boats are here using the public docks that the citizens have paid for, and the citizens can't use them, I have an issue with that, a big issue. So I'd like to know what the citizens' use of the docks can be while these cruise boats are there.
Well, especially the ones that are foreign flags.
And I've never had an issue when I've come up because the boats have been small and you just tie up. But Ms. Taylor was saying that she was down here and they had the gates across and she was greeted an armed guard. So I want to know what the policy is going to be for the citizens to be able to use the docks while the cruise boats are in.
This is not going to be an easy task.
Some of that is for waterfront operations to answer.
Right.
I'm not expecting you to.
And I would turn to our county administrator to figure that part out because they're down on land using our docks. Okay. But the thing is, we have to have the information to be able to talk to the public. I don't want to go out there and give them a what if or just stand there and like a, you know.
Mr. Fuller has something he would like to enlighten us with.
We're talking about one day in the middle of a week. We're not talking about every single
Sheila,
day.
don't give me that. Don't give me that. I'm talking about a boat coming in. It's going to affect our community, okay? And I don't care if it's 1 day or 10 days or 3 days. I want to know about it. I want to know what our authority is as supervisors.
Good evening. As Mr. Hill said, the waterfront operations and the Yorktown Piers are operated under one of your board policies. I forget the number off the top of my head. And right after Mr. Morgan got here, we commissioned a group of citizens, voters. Mr. Green was on that committee. And we relooked at those policies and came up with the policies that are in place today as far as port security, as far as an operation of the piers. The large pier, the T pier as we call it, the one that's right under the gazebo, is a commercial pier. It was constructed with boater infrastructure and grant money, and there are restrictions on that. And the intent of that is for vessels larger than 26 feet. The L pier, which is behind the restaurant, that is more the recreational pier, and that is where majority of the boaters that come in every day should be docking. It's monitored by the state. They've been here many times and looked at it and said, well, your T pier is not full. If you wanted to bring everybody over to the to the T pier, they don't have an issue with that. But the intent is that the pier is commercial. Also, in the board packet that went out this week that's now available to the public, we did submit a memo from Mr. Morgan.
What went out?
On Friday in your board packet that's now available to the public on Tuesday.
Right.
There was a memo that talked about port security and the plan and all of that. So that is available to the public as well.
Okay, good.
And that goes into great detail on the plan
And it gives
and the
us
security.
reference under the law and stuff like that.
And our board policy, and your board policy, I should say.
Well, we can always change policy if it's our board.
Yes, you can.
But I need to know if there's any outside force that's going to prohibit
Right.
us to be able to do
There are
stuff.
plenty, just really quickly, there are plenty times when we do close the pier, okay, for when we have large boats, when we have too many people. That pier is the T pier or the L pier. Those are piers. They're not boardwalks. Though we tend to allow them to be operated as boardwalks, there are a lot of times when, for the safety of the people, the number of boats, the conditions, that we have to close them. We close them every night. If people want to walk out, I know that was one of the complaints that the woman could not walk out on the pier. Sometimes that happens for safety. Sometimes it's security. We have complaints from boaters that people are out walking on their boat. They've entered people's boats before as they're walking around, but we do control that and we monitor that with staff. The fishing pier, which is 150 yards upriver, is open 24/7 and has railings on it. It's safe to walk on. So if somebody really wanted to walk out on the pier, there's always a place to do it in the village. There again, just like with the comprehensive plan, you don't always get what you want, and not everybody gets what you want. So there are times that we have to control that pier for the safety. When it gets too windy, it gets rocky. I tell you, when it gets a little rough, you don't want to walk out on the pier.
Sure,
it's not safe.
Right.
And it's not meant as a boardwalk. It is a it is a marina type boating pier.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is a point that in the public, particularly the people here that live here and want to kind of, want to walk around, do stuff, then you understand there are some limitations on what you do.
And we have
on
the
the
fishing
beach
pier,
and
which is a
everything.
fixed
Okay.
pier. The
All right.
fishing pier is a fixed pier. It's not bouncing in the river as the floating pier is that
Okay.
we dock the boats on.
All right, well, that's a good explanation. Take it, I'll go back and look at that package, but the big thing right now, this board needs we need our legal limitations here, okay? Even if they come in here, we just need, if things get really ugly, we need to know what we can and can't do. All right, so now, there's no other questions for him. Jump over here to our county administrator.
Questions?
Any questions for the county administrator?
I do have a couple announcements.
Okay, go ahead.
If you'd allow me.
Yes.
I'll be brief, given the late hour, but we did want to make you aware that December 1 at 7:30 is a Christmas tree lighting, and we hope to see you all there and everyone in the community, as many as can attend. So that's one big issue. And then the lighted boat parade is the very following night at 7 o'clock. We'd like to see everyone there as well. So
And I'd like to draw attention, the man who looks like Santa Claus is making this announcement tonight.
Thank you. Secondly, I would like to share with you that over the weekend, Mr. Hall, director of our 911 center, was awarded the Richard DeMello Award by the National Public Safety Telecommunications Council. And this is an award that's voted on by their members. It's based off their personal and professional conduct and their performance of their operations. So it is very significant to the county and to Mr. Hall that he was awarded that. So if you get the opportunity, give him a pat on the back and tell him good job.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Thank you.
He is actually on vacation. Yes.
Enjoying life.
Right. And then the last thing I have for you is have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you all enjoy it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, now, any other questions or anything for the administrator?
One quick thing.
Okay. Yes,
Mr. Dupree, who came in the first hour tonight, I mentioned he had some drainage issues. If you could have some county staff look into that. He lives in the first house left of the Seaford School.
I have some awareness of Mr. Dupree's issue.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
And we're going to work on the paddle, whatever we call it. What's that game?
The pickleball?
Pickleball. So I know we got the new courts, so if they're doing more pickleball than they are tennis, why don't we have more pickleball courts?
So actually, the memo that went along with that package actually states that we are going to look at striping 2 of the tennis courts to be used as 4 pickleball courts. I think that's the ratio. Am I right, Brian? So we're going to do that and leave the 2 tennis courts strictly tennis. But the other 2 that are being used as pickleball could be used as tennis courts as well. Is that the plan?
Somewhat.
Roughly?
So basically, we were going to stripe it the same as the 4 tennis courts, but you can put 2 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court. So we are going to stripe the 4 tennis courts, but be able to put 4 tennis courts on 2 of the tennis courts with portable netting that they use in all the professional tournaments and all. So we could actually turn that into 8 and/or 4 or whatever combination. That'll allow us the most flexibility as pickleball grows, but it'll allow us. We could actually have 8 and 4. We could have 16 courts there if we wanted to do a big tournament, bring in some outside people to play. So we're going to look at the most flexibility.
Pickleball's really gotten to be a big thing now. Okay, let's go to matters presented by the board. I'll start with Walt.
Just one thing. Tonight we heard several comments about traveling around the world and living in different places from mostly military people. I just wanted to share with you because I spent 33 years in the United States Army. Traveled all around the world. And I know as we moved every 2 years or 3 years, moved and moved and moved, finally came to Tradoc down at Monroe. Built a home in York County, Upper York County, and I'm here to tell you There's probably a better place to live than York County, but I can't decide where that is. And I've been around the world a number of times. If you want a really beautiful country to live in, visit Vietnam. I spent 2 years there, okay? But it's not very nice when there's a war going on, okay? So, but the point is, there's got to be a better place to live than York County. I don't know where the hell it is, quite frankly. Okay, yeah.
Well, I guess just kind of brief reflection following elections early this month. So some significant changes here in the county. This board will have 2 new members going into next year. School board will have 3 new members. We have at least one brand new constitutional officer and one that officially got voted in office. So some significant changes in the county at the leadership level, which also can invite more interaction, feedback, dialogue with the new members. So encourage everybody out there, look to see who your representative is, either on the board, on the Board of Supervisors, school board, the different constitutional officers. Use this as an opportunity as they're new to the board, reach out, talk to them, engage them, work with them, let them know what you're thinking, where they can help you out in, and just start that dialogue fresh going into January with the different offices coming up. And second of all, everybody have a great Thanksgiving.
Okay. Sheila?
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the people who voted in the election this November. I think it's so important that people express themselves through the voting, and I think we had a very good turnout this year. So thank you all who came out to vote, either in the early voting time or the regular voting time. And I want to thank all the election officials who worked the polls so that we could go out and vote. They start out so early in the morning, 5 o'clock, and they're not finished until after 7 or 8 o'clock. And they come out and they work year after year. But we're always looking for more volunteers. And so if you who have voted have seen the work that they do at the polls, and you might like to be part of that organization, please volunteer to work as a poll official. And I'd like to wish everybody a very, very happy Thanksgiving, but I want you also, please remember those who are not going to be with their families this year. Many are deployed, and they're serving our country, and we need to remember them when we're giving thanks for our meal and our day. So thank you all very much.
Hey, Chad?
I'd like to congratulate Sheila Knoll on a great victory. Stephen Roan, great victory. And I see Mr. Wayne Drury out in the back. If you could just wave and say, hey, he's going to be taking my spot, District 3, next year. Great victory. Congratulations. I also would like to thank Delilah Johnson, George Clark, and Robert Holloway for also running and participating in the democratic process. So thanks and congratulations to everyone. Doug, okay. He didn't have any competition.
Okay. Is it? I know it was a hard campaign. I really stressed over that, I tell you.
Yeah, the choice was clear.
Well, I want to thank the public that did get out and vote, and I appreciate the support. Okay, two things that are very, very important. I I watched there's the I-64 gap widening project. Okay, 27 miles. There's a gap between Hampton Roads and Richmond that we cannot actually participate in terms of the overall development and widening that road. And I tell you, it's just amazing going down. If you just remember back not too many years ago, how you getting up and down the expressway, getting up and down 17, and just how tough it was. And very quickly, over really a short period, we've been able to widen almost all of 64, at least in our area. So the gap is being funded, and the last 9 miles, if you will, of what's in Hampton Roads is going to be funded. It's going to be $756 million is what that project costs, just to widen that stretch. It's amazing. It'll be in 3 segments. They're going to start at that end. I say that end by Bottoms Bridge over towards Richmond, and then they'll work their way across to get to us. And that's just going to it's going to be safer for us. People are going to be able to move through the area easier. Tourism is a thing that we can draw a lot of funds off of that, and it helps supporting us all the way. But anyway, on November 13th, that was accomplished. The governor showed up, and all the senators and everybody all very happy with that. And Barry Knight, Delegate Barry Knight, I really, really wanted to thank him because he was one that was instrumental in getting about $472 million of that money. So it was great. One last thing is kind of near and dear to my heart, and also I know Walt too. And I think, Chad, you weren't in the military, were you? No. And how about you? You were in the military. So it was interesting, Walt, when I got on the board. In 2002, I think everybody in the board had been in the military. When you leave, I'll be the only one left.
Oh my God.
That's sad.
Well, Sheila's kind of a
quasi. Sheila's quasi. Yeah, her husband served. Charlie served in the Navy submarine, I believe, nuclear submarines. But we all had military experience, and the sad part about that was kind of a reflection of our of kind of a generation, if you will, okay? Because Vietnam came around, they had the draft going, but everybody had experience. And I remember as a kid. My dad was in the Marines in World War II, and so when I was a kid and was growing up, I was around Marines all the time, and it was just like everybody had been in World War II. Everybody had been vets, okay? You see them everywhere. And now, obviously, the World War II's guys are gone. Vietnam guys are starting to fade out, and now we've got the Desert Storm folks and all that, but it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And years ago, when we went to a VACO conference, which had about 500-600 people there representing the counties of Virginia, and they asked all the vets to stand up, our whole table stood up. But you look around, many of the tables had no military experience. We're at the 50th year celebration of the volunteer military. I mean, there was a lot of difference when when Walt and I were around, and we had to get drafted until you could get drafted, and then you find your butt over in Vietnam real quick, right? I was in the Air Force, and I was smart enough to fly airplanes, so not in Vietnam, but anyway, it was just a different time, and our military volunteers are starting to it's getting harder and harder for our services to find people. There was a comment in here that from Secretary Austin. That I really wanted to just talk about briefly. It says, so the recruitment. See, the summer. Let's go here. The health of our all volunteer force depends on America's youth understanding and engaging in the opportunities offered in the military services. The department is heavily invested in training, development, and well-being of those who choose to serve. Since conscription ended in the United States, more than 15 million service members have enlisted. Today, more than 2 million serve in uniform. And Sheila, I was thinking of your note about folks being, the people serving. You know, we got 2 carriers right over there near that, going on in the Mediterranean. So our service members, soldiers, sailors, airmen, guardians, Marines, and Coast Guard are our greatest asset, and each selflessly answer the call of our country to serve. And so I would say this is to parents. I know you don't want your loved ones put in harm's way, but one of the things that the military really gives you is discipline. If your child appears to be kind of wandering loose, people, and they go, what are you going to do in life? Well, I'm going to go out and find myself. Well, good luck. We've all had this. And the point is, where can I get experience? You can get a lot of experience in the military, and it's not all going over. And the statement was, join the military, go to new worlds, meet new people, and kill them. No, that's not. That's what I'm talking about. You go over like Tim. You could go over and you can learn trade in computers. You can learn how to manage large organizations and fall into city management, or maintenance of vehicles, big vehicle fleets for whole cities like Jacksonville. Has a big fleet of vehicles. It's managed by a Navy captain, a guy that retired and went over there. And so there's a lot of things, you can learn. History, you just learn to fly airplanes and become get out and to go fly the airlines. There's just so much you can do. In the military, I will tell you, retirement pay is nice to have. The experience, the people you meet, and like Walt said, you're living all over the world, and you're seeing stuff. And I'm going to tell you what, it's really good. And then you find somewhere you can settle down, like a wonderful place here in York County. So I want to thank all the people that served in the military, that are serving today in the military. And folks, parents, don't be afraid to have your child, young men, young women, to go down and just talk and look around and see if service would fit. And I would say if you have a question, where's your heart? Maybe sign up, go serve a couple of years, and then you come out of there. Guess what? You got VA benefits that you can use to help pay for college. So anyway, that's my speech. All right. Okay. Let's see. So the meeting is going to be adjourned here, and the next regular meeting, we're going to adjourn to this adjournment. The next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors will be held at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, December the 5th, 2023, in the East Room. So we are now adjourned.